What's up, everybody? Welcome back to I Came with Fire podcast. Tonight is a fun and somber episode, I guess. We have put out an episode without Zach already, but this is Zach's final episode. Zach and I's final episode together. So, if Zach wants to give a little brief explanation of why he is taking a step back, that's cool. But just when we're gonna call this one burnt popcorn, but I don't want you guys to think it's because something bad happened. It didn't. So, but just because it's another popcorn podcast, and we're just calling it burnt popcorn for fun. So, but anyway, man, it's been a fun year doing this with you, and I appreciate you being the co-host. And I did an episode with Chris, and then somebody made a comment on one of the reels I shared today. It said Zach looks weird.
Zach looks weird. Yeah, so I can change my my appearance on a whim. No.
You're magical.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it has been a really, really good year. I have enjoyed a lot of it. But yeah, just so people know, I'm stepping away fully. I might come back for like maybe a special episode here and there, depending on what happens and stuff. But yeah, I just decided to step away. I feel like I'm a very private person usually, so being out in the public for this long is kind of maybe feel a little weird and eerie. And then also I just kind of want to focus more on family. And then I'm going back to my actual job here soon. So our security forces and
Defender.
I know that schedule is going to take a lot of time for me too. So I just decided to focus on prioritizing time differently. So unfortunately, this got the axe. So
no worries, man.
I enjoyed all of it. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed learning a lot with you.
All of our fun sayings.
Yeah, if it flies, it flies. Getting a lot closer with you and stuff like that. It's crazy.
Sure,
it's been a year. I look back and
it
doesn't feel like
kind of doesn't feel that fast.
No, it doesn't feel like I agree. But
a
lot of our guests were really smart, and most of the time I was blown away by what they would say or what they would show us. And so for anyone
some of the things these people have been through.
Yeah. For anyone who's been listening for the whole year, you've kind of seen the channel progress and get better, especially content-wise and recording audio-wise, that type of stuff. And then also I feel like guest-wise, we had some hard hitters at the beginning, don't get me wrong. I love all our guests. But I feel like guests got better, but the interviews got better. So,
dude, everything changed about the podcast when you came on, because beforehand I didn't really have like a theme and hadn't really thought or put too much effort into a theme. And then if you have truly been with me since the beginning, when the nerd that was doing this with me before, there wasn't much of a theme, and then it completely and totally changed, if you call it that, when Zach came on. And he's actually the one that made all those designs that we post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So, and we're just, we're going to keep doing them, but I'll be the ones making them now. So, but yeah, everything changed when you did that.
So
yeah, let's see, like we used to do the Wednesday news wrap up or whatever. And then we stopped doing that. Weekly Wednesday wrap up. Yeah, we stopped doing that because I think that was like an old from the previous, me and the other guy thing that kind of got held over, because we tried to do like a more news center thing, but he certainly did not put in the effort to do that. And it just was like a remnant that hung around for a while, and then we kind of stopped because it really wasn't our shtick anymore.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, the weekly Wednesday wrap up, every Monday, Tuesday-ish, my anxiety would go through the roof, because I had to find I had to find
good stuff,
enough good news content, and I wanted to make sure that it wasn't super left-leaning or super right-leaning. It had to be generic.
Just generic world news.
Yeah.
Barbara Smith wins chili cook-off in Oklahoma City. Some dumb.
And that's the way the cookie crumbles. Back to you.
Exactly. With the chili bubbles.
That's what the chili. But no, it was so I at first I was like, yeah, this is a great thing. And after a while I was like, this is so annoying. And then honestly, you guys weren't watching it. Like it had like the lowest views of anything we put out.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was
Every
like,
once in a
all
while,
right.
like one of those would like pop on like
Yeah.
YouTube, and
Mm,
it was always somebody saying just something about one of the things,
yeah.
like I don't know, Iran bombs another place, or like America, so I don't know, Houthi rebels get blown the fuck up or whatever, somebody would
It
be
was,
like, oh man, ooh.
I'm not gonna lie, that thing that we did for a while too, the weekly Wednesday wrap up, it made me like, because I was always in the news like all the time, and
Oh yeah.
the news is usually always negative, like majority of the
Mm-hmm.
time negative. So like during that time, I was like, man, the world sucks. But then I
Mm-hmm.
noticed that like when I stopped seeing it all the time, and I kind of like took it's also I think right after that is when I actually like I stopped being on social media a lot. Like I think a couple weeks after I stepped up from Instagram, stuff like that. Um, and after that, I was like, wow, the world's actually pretty nice because I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
seeing all like the disdain and violence and just negativity constantly. I was seeing my lovely family. I was having conversations with you. I was, seeing the time the people I was recruiting to the Air Force and their lives changed for the better. And so it was great. I still
That
think
is
it's great.
something. Yeah, no, that's something about just if you, because I've done that before, just throughout my life, is if you pay a lot of attention to the news, that you
Mhm.
do just get depressed because,
Yeah.
I was actually because I was a guest last night on Where the Weird Ones Are podcast,
Hmm.
and we had a conversation about crisis fatigue. And I was
That's
just
a
making a
real
point
thing.
that like it is, dude. So much stuff happens that you just get to the point where you don't care. Like, oh, look, another thing that really is global news because it's that serious happened this week, and I don't care because I'm just burnt out from constantly hearing
Well,
about it.
what's insane
And
is these crisis things they can, and you probably talked about it in your recording yesterday, but what's crazy, these crisis things, they happen so quickly. Like I
yeah,
was looking at YouTube today, and there was a random video came across, and it was like 10 people killed by teen in Florida today. And I read that headline real quick and just kept scrolling by. Like it's so normal to just see it now that I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I just kept going. Like
mhm.
10 people died today, and my response, my subconscious response was, all right, where's that funny video I'm trying to find? Like,
Yeah,
that's insane.
dude, we've all. Yeah, it's so funny because a long time ago, right now, all these Midwestern moms try to make it a big deal about video games and saying like, oh, our kids are getting numb
Mm,
to violence and all this shit. And like maybe they had a good point because all of the violence and crap we see on the news now, it just washes over your head. Like unless you like I don't know, there's some stuff in the
you have to
news
have a
where like I'll see
connection, I feel
something.
like.
You do. Like if
Yeah.
I see something about like kids, like that'll get me, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or I don't know. I was just saying that like every once in a while something will get me, but like it's oh yep, another attack, another this, another
Hmm.
that, and it just it is what it is.
Hmm.
Whereas before the 24-hour news cycle, before the internet and internet news, it just you found out the news in the evening like everybody else and or you read it in the newspaper and it
Yeah.
was like, holy shit, that happened,
But
and
used to find out about it in the evening, and then there was a time when TV would stop. It was like 10 o'clock or
right.
something, and it
Yeah.
would just go. It would turn like it would all turn off. And it would just be
Right.
like a
And you wouldn't
blank
be
standby
bombarded.
screen.
Mhm. Yeah, and like maybe I don't know because I never lived in that period of time, but like
Hmm.
I could assume that when that happened, and in the morning when you got up and you got your newspaper and you read your newspaper before work, maybe you were reading a little more in depth about what you saw in the news the night before, but it wasn't a whole new slew of fucking
Yeah.
shit that when you wake up in the morning you get these push notifications on your phone from
Hmm.
Reuters or CNN
Yep.
or whatever news app you use, and there's like, oh man, and there always is something, so it's
Well,
it's
there's
a it's a very real thing that you can get depressed about
yeah.
real quick if you spend a lot of time in it.
There's something else too. Is before like the new age of the internet and 24/7 news cycle, you mostly, if it was like in the newspaper or on the news, it was actually something like worth knowing about, And you
Hmm.
wouldn't hear about like local stuff from different localities. You would hear about
Hmm.
global stuff or national stuff, but
Yeah.
like to reference 10 people killed today in Florida. Like when I was in middle school, high school, this is like, 2005 to 2010, 2011, right? You probably wouldn't hear about that, honestly. It wasn't
Hmm.
national news.
Yeah,
That would be something local for like just
definitely.
Florida and maybe like Georgia or like the surrounding states to know about. But
Hmm.
it wouldn't get to like Washington where I was because it
Right,
wasn't worth broadcasting to my eyes in my area.
dude. And social media has been really good about all of this like local lore that maybe you grew up with and wherever you're from, some obscure town in Iowa or
Mm-hmm.
Maine, and somebody will make like there'll be maybe there was like a crazy murder or a really weird halfway paranormal event that happened in 1979, and everybody in your little local corner of the woods knows about it,
Mm-hmm.
but now maybe you find it on TikTok or you find it, on
Mm-hmm.
YouTube because somebody did it, and then because somebody had an interest in it, now 10 other people did it, or whatever. So like even all the weird little, local yokel shit that happens in
Mm-hmm.
BFE Iowa or Montana or whatever even has its corner of the internet now. So
Yeah,
it's kind of funny.
it is
That's
weird.
it's kind of like an interesting and kind of fun thing. It's like you can learn about urban legends from
Mm-hmm.
northwestern Utah, or whatever. But
Because like
yeah, but it is.
you could imagine like we've talked like Bigfoot or like other
Mhm.
like monsters and stuff on like our previous episodes, and before like the age of the internet or like massive global communication, even national communication, um, I bet there was like people seeing Bigfoot in Washington, and they're probably like, "Dude, this is only here. Like, we gotta go get
Right.
it." And then some dude saw it in like, Montana, and was like, "Bro, like, what the hell is that?"
Hmm.
And they had
Yeah.
no idea that it was possibly like the same creature across states. Like they probably just need to think about it. It's like, dude, it's
I
just in
can
the
give you
backyard.
right. I could give you a good example of that because um, where I went to college in St. Louis, there's like a section of the town that's got some like really old railroad tracks and some like dilapidated like factory buildings, and they're not like used or anything like that. But there's this like
Dilapidated
urban
faculty.
legend, yeah, dilapidated faculty, all of Congress. Anyway, but no, there's like an urban legend that if you go to these railroad tracks and you put like flour or powdered sugar or something like that on the trunk, and you put the car in neutral and you park over the top of the railroad tracks, that you'll get pushed over the railroad tracks by like this ghost. And
Yeah.
you put the powder on the trunk because you can see like the handprints, and that's like the urban legend.
Yeah.
But that's the first time I'd heard about that. But in the military meeting other people, they're like, oh, there's a story like that where I'm from in New York, or there's a story like that where I'm from in North Carolina or
Do
whatever.
you
You know what I mean?
do you think that's like an actual ghost thing, or do you think
Hmm.
that's just something that like humans come up with to explain something or to connect,
Hmm.
or maybe like your parents folklore just told you to like make you not go to the tracks at night because it's like not
Hmm.
safe, and it's just a generic made up, like it's weird. That happens sometimes where you have like communities that don't communicate, and they'll both come up with like the same, like, don't do this because this, and it's like almost the
Hmm.
same, and it's just like humans just come up with that as a way to not do something. It's weird.
Yeah, I'll give you a couple examples as well of this that maybe will help answer your question, right? So I do think that maybe this originated somewhere as like an urban legend. Maybe there was a car accident on the railroad tracks, a couple of teens learning how to drive, out
Mm-hmm.
drinking, maybe
Yeah.
whatever, something, right? And then back in, I don't know, let's just use a time period, the 40s or the 50s, news didn't travel as fast, but it did travel,
Yeah.
because there were cars and the military, right? People in the military share stories, and that it just
Mhm.
naturally spread. But there are a bunch of urban legends like that have prominence all over the place. So like, there's like a really famous ghost, right? The lady in white. so many people, so many places, even in Europe, have
Mm-hmm.
haunting tales of like the lady in white. It's like, she can either be like a bride who was jilted and murdered by her husband, or
Yeah.
like she was a mother who lost her child, and now she's wandering the grounds of this beautiful but ghostly garden looking for her child.
Yeah.
Or like one of the more popular
Lore is
ones in the
always
United
so good.
States. There's a more popular one in the United States, the Chicago area, called Resurrection Mary, and it's one of those like hitchhiker ghosts, right? Where like she is wandering outside of Resurrection Cemetery in Chicago, and Unsolved Mysteries actually has an episode about
Love that
Resurrection
show.
Mary. Yeah, me too. The old Robert Stack episodes are the best,
Mm-hmm.
but where essentially she's killed in a car accident, and then these men are driving by the cemetery at night and they see her walking down the street and they pick her up and she asks to take them, ask them to take her home. And when they get to the house, she's not in the car, and then like one of the people like gets the balls to get out of the car and go up to the house and ask, and they're like, "Oh, that's our daughter Mary. Why are you messing with me? That's so mean. She died 10 years ago," or
Yeah.
whatever. And you're like, they see a photo of her on the hutch and she was just in my car,
And
or
it's like a
whatever.
pink
And that's
Saturn.
exactly right. But there are so many, quote unquote, Resurrection Mary stories around the US,
Mm-hmm.
that, the hitchhiker ghost is a pretty common theme. I mean, even Disney uses the hitchhiker ghost thing in like the Haunted Mansion, but she's just another version of the hitchhiker ghost. Just like the woman in white is like another version of like, could be like La Llorona or whatever. Everywhere's there's like even famous photos of ladies in white ghosts, you know what I mean? From like, way back in the day. And so I think that these are just like all urban legends that maybe, Victorian era white dresses are pretty common, you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
like
yeah,
everybody's got a story, you know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
And like these
And of course, if
these
your
hitchhiker.
grandma or your mom dies, they were wearing that when they died.
Right.
Like
Right. Or let's ask this question, right? Did hitchhiker ghost stories exist when there were just carriages and no cars? Like, were you riding your horse and buggy past the cemetery in
that's a
1840,
that's a good
and then
question.
you know
That's
what
a
I
good
mean? Like,
question for Google.
mhm. Is this one of these ghost stories that's come around because of
Did
cars? You know what I mean? Like,
hitchhiker ghost stories exist before cars?
yeah, is there like a hitchhiker ghost for like carriage? Horse and buggy. Do Amish people have hitchhiker ghosts? I want to know.
I need to.
Oh,
I need
there's
to.
Ezekiel. He
Word.
died in 1650. Oh, he's still churning butter. Look at him. Even in the afterlife.
Yeah, it says there were. And there's people who would say that they had
Okay.
like people who would be like, "Hey, I need to ride on your horse or on your buggy," and you'd be like, "All right, cool." This one
You know
says
what?
that like there were some people in like the early 1800s who would like give a ride to a dude to the next town over on his horse,
Well, there you
and
go.
and he would like all of a sudden not feel him, and he'd look back and the person's gone. So
So hitchhiker ghosts are old, right?
yeah,
See, there we go.
ghosts
I
have
think
always
these
been
are just like
hitchhiking.
urban legends that maybe have morphed, over time, you know? Like Resurrection Mary, she gets in your
Yeah,
car,
yeah.
fucking whatever.
Chase your buggy.
Hill Cemetery Tom from 1840, gets on your buggy. Is he going to ask for a ride in your Toyota? I don't know.
You
He
might.
might if you find, I don't know. See, I think they're like urban legends that just have evolved with time. And like, I bet what it is too, dude, I'd even be willing so far as to go that like some of these urban legends just originated from somebody who heard it from somebody else.
Oh yeah, it's like
And they
if they
they
gave a
just tell the story
telephone.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, hey, did you hear that on the train tracks over on Mulberry that long ago in 1945 a couple of kids died there? And
It's like
just telling a total fib.
it's like when I was in high school, there was that thing that went around that this is like 2008, 2011, that everyone thought that Jeffree Star like removed his bottom ribs so he could suck
No, that was
himself.
Marilyn Manson.
That's who it was, not Jeffree Star.
Mm-hmm.
Well, same thing. Marilyn Manson
Yeah.
apparently
Minus
removed
the music.
he barely removed his like bottom
Yeah.
lip so he could suck himself off, and like
Mm-hmm.
you just
It was
believed
total
it.
bullshit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're just like, what? That's
Because he was
crazy.
so weird. It's
Yeah.
kind of like that point that Aaron made on the episode with him where he was like, there was a time when you could have said Mike Tyson did anything and you would believe it because it's so
Yeah.
fucking nuts. Like that was the same with like Marilyn Manson. And you know what else is like everybody from that grew up like with we did, we all remember learning that weird S. You know, I know you know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
The
But
six
where the
lines is
fuck,
like,
yeah, where the fuck did that shit come from? I'm
I
sure
don't know.
somebody has figured it out, but we all learned about it.
Yeah.
No matter where you went to fucking
Mm-hmm.
school,
Dude,
I learned about it when
I would
yeah,
draw it all the time. And also,
yeah, I'd have
hags
pages
was a
full of it
thing.
for no reason. What
Hags was a
was?
thing too. Remember
What's
hags?
hags?
So like
Mm-mm.
every year you get your yearbook, and it was like the ways they have a great summer. So it's hags.
Oh, dude, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, so that was like parents thing in like Washington or
Maybe it's because I was a
the
military
West,
brat.
maybe. But like it was like a way to like say you just go hags, and it was like in everyone's yearbook. And I remember
Have a great
people,
summer.
yeah, I remember people would write hags in my yearbook. Like, what the fuck is this? And then somebody explained to me, it's like, oh, and it just kept going. Like it was like a thing
I've
for
never
a
even heard of that.
while. Yeah.
Yeah, just like a fun acronym to fucking write. I've never even heard
Mm-hmm.
of that. Yeah. No, I think it's all just I'm sure there's an OG hitchhiker ghost story somewhere, or there's an OG lady in white story. I think the most prominent hitchhiker ghost I've ever heard of is the whole Resurrection Mary one. At least that's the one that's the first one I remember seeing on Unsolved Mysteries. But
Mm-hmm.
even like another Unsolved Mysteries episode, because there's so many freaking good
It's so
ones.
good. I
It
think
is.
aren't the original episodes like on some streaming service that you can like
I think
watch?
it's either Hulu or Paramount Plus. I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I'll look that up and rewatch it at
yeah,
some
but
point.
like there's like the Harbinger ghost, right? Like one of the stories on Unsolved Mysteries is from like the Outer Banks in North Carolina, like a guy who died on his horse, like he fell off his horse and died. And
Mm.
now he tells people St. Pauli's Island, I think is what it is off the coast of North Carolina. And if you run into him on the beach or somewhere on the island, it's supposed to be like a warning to you, but like in a benevolent sort of way, like, hey, get out of here because the hurricane's coming or something like that.
Mm.
And he's like a warning, like a harbinger ghost, but in a good way. And then
Mhm.
there's ghosts that are like harbinger ghosts, but in a bad way. Like
Yeah.
something bad is gonna happen. You know what I mean? If you see this, or 7 days or whatever. I don't know. But
So let's.
themes,
Apparently, this episode is becoming a paranormal one. But the
apparently. Typical.
um,
We do have popcorn pod questions
that's fine. We'll get to them.
for everybody listening. Yeah.
We'll get to them. Stay tuned. Don't skip ahead. Don't skip back. Actually, do skip
Yeah.
back. Re-listen to us, but don't
Yes.
skip ahead.
Yes.
Let's just, for the time being, let's just all agree right now: aliens exist and ghosts exist. We're not going to debate their existence. We're just going to say they both exist. Okay.
Yes. I agree.
Do you think ghosts hitchhike on alien UFOs?
Oh.
You think there's a possibility?
If there's a physical UFO craft, I don't see why not. I don't see why not.
Do you think like an alien would be like freaked out? He's like going through interstellar space or something.
Space Ghost.
And he looks back and he's like, "What the fuck? Like, how'd you get in
Oh,
here?" And
those
it's like some
kids
pioneer
6,000
dude.
years ago crashed on Saturn's rings, and
Yeah.
now if you go to that part of space, right, you can see the ghost of Blargon, the space ghost.
Blargon
Yeah,
4.
exactly. I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe.
Good
Another thing is
question.
kind of we're kind of talking about how like there's the interconnectedness between the stories that things make. Why is like every human afraid of uncanny looking humans? Like, why is that a
So
thing?
the uncanny valley thing. The
Yeah, it's
best
like where you see a
explanation.
human that's like not quite like like you're
Mhm.
not something's off.
Yeah.
Is it
The
because there was like some ancient humanoidish figure that hunted us and like we're just supposed to be afraid of it? Like what the heck is that?
Yeah, right. Because if we have like a fear of it, it's because there was a evolutionary survival based need
Yeah, there's
for
a
it, right?
reason. Yeah.
Yeah. The best explanation I've heard for it is that that uncanny valley with humans is from seeing dead bodies. and that dead bodies you should stay away from because they give off disease, or maybe it's something that a predator who eats carrion might be attracted to, or whatever. Because like if you've ever seen a dead body, which I know we both have, but I'm just saying,
They do look off.
They do look off, and it's the color. They're very pallid, right? Maybe their face is rested in a surprised look, or their eyes are open, or like I went to a call one time where a guy had a heart attack and landed right on his face and broke his fucking nose. So like his whole everything was covered in blood because he was bleeding while he was dying. So like something about him is off. So like I could see that like maybe that's where that developed. I think that's a good explanation, but I just don't know that it's like such a fear rooted in survival that it would
because there's
be a legacy fear for our entire evolutionary process. The more fun explanation is definitely that if there's someone that looks just like you, go the other way. You know what I mean? Like those fucking exactly. That's a more fun explanation.
What's that Jordan Peele movie where like called he makes horror movies now?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I can't remember the title. It's on Netflix.
I can't either.
It's a good movie, but it's the whole premise is that like there's like a factory of humans that look just like you, like underneath like the ground, and they escape apparently.
Yeah.
But they will die if they don't eliminate you because they have to like take your spot. So like they're all trying to. So like if you saw you, like they had to kill you to live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've not actually seen that movie, but I know what you're talking about. But there was like an actor or maybe a musician who said that he saw like refrigerated room full of fucking body doubles. I'm trying to remember who it was. Part of me thinks it was Bernie Mac, but I could be wrong. I probably am wrong, honestly. But that he saw, that's like a claim he made, is that he saw a room of body doubles of people who were famous. Because that's part of the whole like Illuminati thing too, right? Is like because like you've seen too, where like there's all these there's all these celebrities who say, oh, like that's not them anymore. You know what I mean? That doesn't, something's off about them, or whatever.
Because like there's like old tiny photos that are like confirmed to be from the time period and not altered.
Oh yeah.
And like Sean Reeves is in it. You're like, what the heck? And then there's like one like Nicolas Cage, and then there's
well, there's the crazy one about Anne Hathaway as well, the actress, because she was Shakespeare's wife was Anne Hathaway as well, and there's all these really weird similarities and parallels between her, and even like her husband or boyfriend or something at one point. I don't pay attention to all this celebrity shit, but like that she is from that time period or whatever. I don't know. I don't necessarily believe in immortal beings, like human beings, but I do think that people.
Isn't it the theory like Kelly Clark? Is it Kelly Clarkson or who is it? No, Avril Lavigne. Where like she like died, and like the current Avril Lavigne is her like body double, and she's just continuing on because you're not supposed to know Avril Lavigne like died or something. You've heard that before?
I've never heard that one about her. I do know that she got bit by a tick and got Lyme disease, and she's almost died a couple times, and that's why she fell off.
Avril Lavigne body double.
I haven't heard that one about Avril Lavigne. I've heard it about a lot of other people. Like they had a Kanye West body double thing for a while. Obviously, everybody thinks Joe Biden's a lizard. Like I can't fucking go on the internet.
Lobes are different,
right? At least, or his eyelids. Once a week, there I see something about I don't know. That's a mask.
It was a conspiracy in like 2003. It said like Avril Lavigne died in 2000. She died in 2002. Shortly after the release of her successful first album, Let Go, and was replaced by her body double, which is confirmed to be her body double. She would like go other places to confuse paparazzi. Her name was Melissa Vandella.
Maybe that's where that came from.
Apparently, Melissa
there's one about the Beatles too, right?
Yeah, there's like there's one about every famous person at Dale.
That like if you play a certain part of this is even a part in the Sleepless in Seattle movie with the kids are listening to Strawberry Fields record backwards and it says Paul is dead, because there's that whole theory that I think Paul McCartney died at some point and that they replaced him with somebody else. Yeah, there's a bunch of things like that. It wouldn't surprise me like I'll put it this way. Like if you could really find somebody that looked just like somebody famous in a band, and like you could pull that off, especially in a day and age when the Beatles were famous, without the internet, without fucking,
Mm-hmm.
the immediate expedited photos everywhere around the world, that you probably could pull that off, at
Yeah.
least for a little while, because I mean, there's uh there's like famous events throughout history of like even kings or like famous warriors who have died, and they just get propped up on horses and shit like that, and they bring
Mm-hmm.
their dead body to the battlefield, it's like a
Yeah.
morale thing, because they don't want to know, they don't want the men to know that that Richard the Lionheart is dead. They won't tell them until
Mm-hmm.
after the battle
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, and yeah,
The
so there's people do that.
the original singer for AC/DC, he died right when AC/DC was getting like real big, like
Mm-hmm.
overdose or something, and
Mm-hmm.
the band almost broke up until they found, I can't remember his name, but they found like the guy to replace him, and they don't look
Mm-hmm.
the same, but they sound exactly the same. It's like
Yes, it's
when you
pretty
listen
crazy.
to like the other like if you didn't know that it was two different dudes, you'd think it
Mm-hmm.
was the same guy. You'd be like, what
Yeah,
the heck?
that's pretty wild. That
Yeah.
is pretty wild.
Doesn't look the
Yeah.
same, but they found someone who was willing to sing, sounded just like the other guy. And yeah, and actually the song Back in Black um is written for, it's like an homage to the original vocalist dying. So it's like, I'm back in black, I hit the sack, da 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 da. It's like him, like, I'm back, but I'm in him pretty much. Like, I'm still
No,
here.
I did not know
Yeah.
that. It's a good song. Yeah, I didn't
Yeah,
know
it's
that.
a great song. It's an
Yeah.
homage. Well, I think we should get to these questions, Brandon, or else we'll go on
Should.
forever.
Yeah. You want to go first or should I go first?
You hit it off first.
Ooh, okay. Let's see. I'll ask you kind of a fun, easy one first.
Okay.
All right. If you were stuck in a library in like a Day After Tomorrow, if you remember that movie,
Yeah.
style blizzard
I love the movie.
was just raging
I'm
outside.
in their
What
library in New York City.
You're in the library. What book would you burn first to keep warm?
What book would I burn
Yeah.
first? So
Yep.
I'm not like an avid reader, so
You're like, oh, Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol, I can't burn this. Like, what are you gonna go grab?
like honestly, like the older the book, probably the better to burn. So I gotta go get like, gotta be like the Holy Bible or something like that.
You're gonna burn the Bible?
Yeah.
Dang. Oh, okay. I mean, I guess it is a thick book. I kind of was like halfway expecting you to be like, I'm gonna go find the Communist Manifesto
See,
and all of Karl Marx's work, and I'm just gonna burn it all.
it doesn't. I mean, if I'm in the Day After Tomorrow and I'm just trying to stay warm, I guess I'm not like choosy on the book. You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah, you don't really care, right? If it's survival, but just for fun, right? Like, right. Yeah.
I don't
No,
know.
if
I
it's
guess
just survival, you don't give a shit. You just I would just be shoving books onto the floor. You know what I mean?
yeah. I guess I'm going with all the. I'm just gonna the Dr. Seuss books because I'm gonna read them real quick before I burn them and to entertain me as I'm warming up. You know what I mean?
Okay, that's a good. I wasn't expecting that answer, but that's surprisingly good. The Dr. Seuss books.
Yeah, red
That's
fish,
funny.
blue fish, one fish, two fish. That is hilarious. All right,
Right.
warm me up. Right, next one. I'm just
Okay.
gonna go from there.
Would you eat green eggs and ham, Sam? I am. Yeah. Okay.
I would. Yeah.
And I'll burn it too.
Yeah, I'll burn it right after I read it because they're quick.
I mean, there are a lot too.
Yeah,
When you
it's a
think
whole
about it, there are
bunch.
a lot of Dr. Seuss books,
Yeah.
and they probably have multiple copies of,
Oh yeah.
green eggs and ham,
Mhm.
or the fucking Lorax in the library, because there's going to be exactly Horton burns a book. You know what I mean?
Zach.
Oh, that's a terrible thing in my
burns
head.
a book.
Yeah, Yeah. Oh man, I probably should keep my joke that just popped into my head to myself. Especially that was a pretty bad one. Anyway, I'm so stupid.
What you more? Would you go straight for Karl Marx or the?
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't like a, oh man, something needs to be on fire or we're gonna freeze to death kind of thing. But you like absolutely we're gonna burn something to keep warm. I think I would go for like the encyclopedias, because they're kind of fucking useless. Everything in an encyclopedia is pretty much online. And like, yeah, there's probably info in older encyclopedias that's not online. You know what I mean? But there's a fuckload of them.
I forgot
You know, and they're all
encyclopedias
really
exist,
big.
to be honest.
Yeah, I would probably go for like maybe if I could find like some copyright 1974 Encyclopedia Britannicas. I'm like, this is definitely out of fucking date. You know, and just burn them, maybe something like that. There's a
You grab
fuckload
like
of them.
Webster's dictionaries, thesauruses.
There you go.
You don't need like, all right, whatever. I don't
Yeah,
need
resource
words with
style
fire.
books. You know, yeah, all these old dictionaries, thesauruses. Maybe I'll go find Strunk White's fucking book on writing. I hated that shit in fucking AP Lit.
I'd actually probably grab the thesaurus. I always struggle with that word, and then
It is a hard one.
I would find like an alternate word for like fire or warm flame or something, and then say it and then lit it on fire, and then go get another thesaurus and then find a different one.
Right, right. You
That's
just
all of it.
Find a makeshift one and just be like inflammare and like make some weird like Harry Potter, you know. It's Leviosa, Leviosa, right? On fire. Let's inflammare. Right, exactly. Zachary Smith.
It's Leviosa.
Right. Levio Zachary Smith, not Smite. Right? Something like that. All right, that's a good answer. Dr. Seuss books. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting Dr. Seuss.
I wasn't either.
That was a good fucking answer. Yeah.
All right.
Your turn, G.
I'll give you kind of a. It's not like a fun one, but it's a little easier. What is your favorite Zelda game, and why?
This is a good question.
It is.
Yeah. So it's a hard question to answer.
I can only pick one.
But the one, okay. Well, I'm gonna pick one, and then I'm gonna
give me like a hierarchy of like top 3, top 5. But when we were going first.
Yeah.
And why?
Yeah, I'm a '90s kid, man. I'm gonna have to say that Ocarina of Time is my favorite, and I think the nostalgia is what pushes it into the number 1 spot.
Okay.
Because I saw someone else say this about Breath of the Wild, that Breath of the Wild looks now the way all of us thought Ocarina of Time looked when we were kids.
Okay.
Like that's how like our brain was like amazed by it. You know what I mean? How as crisp and cool as they did Hyrule and Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, that's how we interpreted Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
And just the music, the gameplay, the
complexity,
pretty much open. The open world sort of style, like, there's more of a storyline that you have to follow. Exactly. That I mean, I'm gonna tell you right now, when people talk about like staying up late and playing video games, that was the one for me. Like when I had friends, we would just sit and watch each other play Ocarina of Time, and like we played GoldenEye 2 or like Star Fox like on 64 and shit, or PlayStation Need for Speed or fucking Metal Gear Solid or whatever. We had all those games, you know what I mean? But like Ocarina of Time was that one for me. And it also came at like a time when my parents were giving me a lot more freedom. So I could like go and like, I started having a lot more sleepovers and shit, you know? And that was like kind of right as that came out. It was, but Ocarina of Time, the music is so quintessential.
It is.
And I could sit here and hum multiple songs from Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep.
I have songs. I have like the originals on my stuff. I like playlists, and I have like remixed versions. And then I have
like multiple lo-fi Zelda soundtracks I listen to while I work.
And I have like the EDM versions of them where they're like hard bass push.
Oh yeah,
they're great,
dude. I even have like some like one of my favorites is a piano rendition of Song of Storms. That's a really cool one. Yep.
I was actually just dancing. I was also just dancing to classical Zelda music with Senna the other day. I was just playing it in the living room. I was just dancing.
Right, dude. You can do that totally with Zelda music.
Yeah.
But I'd have to say after that, definitely Breath of the Wild is number 2. But I want to give some love to some of the other games that like my first Zelda game I played was A Link to the Past on Super Nintendo, and my parents bought us a bunch of Super Nintendo games at a yard sale. And I had a Super Nintendo prior to that, and I had several games.
You probably had like Contra, Street Fighter. You had like Metroid Prime, Super Mario Bros.
I had Super Mario Bros. I had Mario Kart. I
Okay, yeah.
had Donkey Kong,
Yep.
like the original.
Mhm.
Um, I actually have a video on VHS of me getting Donkey Kong for Christmas in 1994
Were you
when my
just as
dad was stationed at
excited?
Langley.
Were you just
Dude, I was
excited as
fucking
that one kid
stoked.
video when he gets a Nintendo 64? Where he's like,
Oh, not that excited, but really excited. Yeah. But no, my parents, they bought a bunch of Super Nintendo games at a yard sale. Somebody was probably PCSing because it was in base housing.
yeah,
And they came home with them. But I remember the only game, well, I take that back. I remember a couple of the games that came with it, like some baseball game as well. But Sim City and then A Link to the Past.
mm,
And dude, that's what got me hooked on the Zelda world. And then
same.
there was a lady that lived up the street from us. She had a couple of teenage sons, and I don't remember if like I was over there being babysat by her because maybe my parents were on a date or something like that. But one of her sons, he and I went up to his room with him and we were playing. He had a Super Nintendo and he was playing, but he was playing one of the like old Zelda games, like Zelda 1 or 2. And I remember
Yeah,
because
or
he was
like
like, "Oh, this is
Link.
Zelda." And I remember saying, "This isn't Zelda. I have Zelda." And he's like, "No, you probably have this one." It was Link to the Past. And he showed me. He's like, "Yeah, this is before that." And I had no idea that that's what it was. But I sat and
Mhm,
watched him play like one of the older Zeldas, and I was like, "Oh shit, there's like other games, you know."
mhm.
But I had like the Zeldas for Game Boy as well, like
Yep.
Oracle of Seasons and Oracle
Yeah.
of Time.
Minish
Those were
Cap.
those Minish
The
Cap is
Minish
great.
Cap's
You can play
good.
it is. You can play that on the Switch actually.
Yeah.
But those two that like Ages and Time or whatever, Seasons and
Oracle of
Time, I think. Seasons and
uh
then Time
Oracle of Time and Seasons of the
and
Sages or
Season
something.
something. But
Okay.
those were made by Capcom. They weren't made by the
Yeah.
the normal, so they're a little different, but they're really good too.
Hmm.
You can play those on the Switch as well now. But Minish Cap is really good. But I still, dude, I have multiple saves of A Link to the Past, and then the one that they made with whatever Game Boy came out like I don't know, like 10 or 15 years ago.
It's a whole different
That
Game
one,
Boys.
yeah. Well, there are, dude. That one had they came out with Ocarina of Time for that one also that you could play handheld,
Yeah.
which was pretty cool. But they
I
came
think of
out
the
with
3DS.
3DS. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think the one I'm thinking of though is called A Link Between Worlds, which is it's
Yes.
basically the same map
It's
as
a
A
different
Link to the
story,
Past.
but it's like the
It's a
same
different
idea.
story,
Yeah.
and then like the Dark World and everything. There are significant differences, but it's pretty much
Hmm.
the same map.
Hmm.
And then I Wind Waker. I love Wind Waker. A lot of people weren't a big fan of Wind Waker because of the art and like the boat, but I
Wind
love
Waker
Wind
is my
Waker.
number one.
Is it?
Wind Waker is my number one. So I
Why?
I also grew up also in the 90s. I had a Super
Hmm.
Nintendo. I didn't have a 64. I literally went from Super Nintendo straight to Xbox. So
Okay.
I skipped
I
like
never had an Xbox.
yeah. So my uh my our uncle on my mom's side got us an Xbox for Christmas in like 2001. So
Hmm.
that Xbox, I had Halo Combat Evolved, Sega GT 2002, and Jet Saber Future, and that started my like video game blow up pretty much. But it was Super Nintendo before that. That was my dad's. I remember playing Link to the Past all the time. What's funny is, uh, I actually have never. I didn't beat Link to the Past until I was an adult. I had it as a kid, and I would always get to the part to where you have to get one of the crystals, because you get the three pendants, and then I think it's like the seven crystals after the three
Seven
pendants.
Crystals.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
There's the crystal to get in the dark world in the village, Kakariko Village, but
Hmm.
to go into it, you had to go to like the compass in the compass in town square, and
Hmm.
you pull on it, and it would
Yeah.
open up the door that you could go in. I never figured that out as a kid.
Mm.
I never figured out you're supposed to pull on that. What's funny is uh, I grew up Mormon, and so we had missionaries at our house all the time. Missionaries are supposed to like play video games, like watch TV and stuff. So they'd come to
Hmm.
our house for uh, family meeting or weekly meeting. And they just play our Super Nintendo, and
That's awesome.
one of them was an avid like Zelda lover, and I remember it had been like years, and I had never like figured that out,
You
and
watch
then
him beat it.
he did it. He just like
Mm.
casually walked up, opened it, and then went down. I was like, what? Like, blew
Some
my
gray
mind.
matter comes out of your ear.
Yeah. I was like, it's got to be the right religion. He just casually figured that out. God led
Oh
him
my
there, you know?
gosh. Wow.
Wow. Where do I sign up?
I know. Thanks,
uh,
brother.
Wind Waker is my number one because, um, one, I love the art style. To me, it's like tradition. It's almost like traditional Japanese art style, even though
Mm-hmm.
it's cartoony. It's like
Yeah.
tradition. It's got like the Japanese spirals when things
Yeah,
explode.
for the smoke.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it just looks Japanese.
Even their eyes are kind of Asian.
Well, what's actually so a lot of like the bad guys have like squintier eyes. I'm good about
Mm-hmm.
pieces, but they have squintier eyes. And
To blindfold them with floss.
it was done on purpose by like the design team.
Mm-hmm.
And in an interview, they said they made like all the hero characters have really big eyes, so
That makes sense.
they're making fun of Americans. It was a way to make fun of Americans. Big
Oh,
eyes.
nice.
So that's why Link has giant eyes, Zelda has giant eyes.
Ah.
Yeah, all like the good characters have giant eyes.
Mm.
It's a nod to making fun of Americans for having big eyes.
I didn't know that. That's kind of
Yeah.
funny. And Nintendo's good at shit like that, though.
Yeah. But yeah, Wind Waker, I just love it. It's like actually like open world. Like it's a huge map. Every
Mm-hmm.
square has like a different island, and every island can be like explored and all that type of stuff. I just love it. And it's the dungeons to me are the best. They're very well thought out. Like they're just great. Um, my number two would probably be Ocarina of Time, then Link to the
Mm-hmm.
Past, and then
Have you played Breath of the Wild or Tears of the
yes.
Kingdom? Okay.
So I was at the reason why I asked this question is because we've talked about this before in like some conversations.
Yeah.
To me, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are great video games, but they're not Zelda games.
Mm.
That makes sense. So like, and the
It doesn't.
reason
Mm-hmm.
the
Go
reason
ahead.
why. So to me, like so Breath of the Wild, open world, you do play as Link, you're saving Hyrule. Like it has all the elements of a Zelda game, but it has no dungeons. It's
Mm-hmm.
actually very like barren if you think about it. Like there's a lot of stuff like when you go around, but like you could run around in Breath of the Wild for like ever and like do absolutely nothing. Like
That's one
it's
of the
just
reasons why I love that game so much,
yeah.
actually.
So that's the thing. Like people, I enjoyed the game. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a great game. I just don't think it's a great Zelda game.
Mm.
And Tears of the Kingdom is better because it actually
Mm-hmm.
has like some dungeons, kind of. It's more like just like traversing like the
You're
underground
right that it's not
and
traditional dungeons.
yeah, and like the aerial thing. I'm hoping. I really wish so. The next Zelda game, it can be open world. It can have like crafting elements. It can have all that type of stuff. It can have like that. I want an adult Zelda game. I guess that's what I'm looking for because like a lot of Zelda
Mm.
games are more. It's I mean they're tailored more towards kids and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I want like a Twilight Princess 2.0. That's what I want. Because Twilight Princess was gritty. It was dark. Like
Actually, when you asked the question, I totally forgot about Twilight Princess, but that's a
yeah,
great game.
it is. It's gritty, dark. Like you watch like Kakariko Village and her people get lit on fire. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
insane for a Nintendo game. Like you're like,
Yeah.
what?
Yep.
I want another dark, gritty, like adult, very medieval themed Zelda game. With like
Mm-hmm.
really intense, in-depth dungeons. That's what they do
They
in the
could
next
totally
one.
do it, man. Because
Yeah.
like Ocarina of Time has like real dungeons. Obviously,
Mm,
everybody bitches about the water temple. You know what I mean?
it's not that hard.
Um, it isn't. It was when I was fucking 12 though.
Yeah, true.
Um, but yeah, no. And the one that I didn't really care for as much was Skyward Sword. Like that was
Yeah.
just okay. I didn't care for Skyward Sword that much, even though that's like really the origin stories there for Breath of the Wild and
Mhm.
Tears of the Kingdom.
Except for
But
the ideas came from. Like it's what you're
it is
trying to get to. Yeah.
yeah. But no, that one I didn't really like as much. And I actually never played it. I never owned Skyward Sword. I had a buddy who
Same.
lived in the dorms with me
It was
and
on a
had a
Wii U.
Wii.
I never had a Wii
Mm-hmm.
U. So
Yeah, and that's the only place I ever played it. And I sat in his room and played it with him for hours. You know what I mean? But like, I also had Twilight Princess on GameCube. I didn't have
that's
Twilight
what I had
Princess on
on.
the Wii. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm actually glad because my wife has Twilight Princess on the Wii,
It's
and I watched
opposite.
her play it. I don't like it. I'm glad I played this on
Yeah.
GameCube on the controller like that because I don't know, it just feels
So,
better, to me anyway.
Zelda, or not Zelda, Link in every single Legend of Zelda except Twilight Princess for the Wii,
Mm-hmm.
Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom, he's left-handed.
Oh.
He uses a sword with his left hand and a shield with his right.
Mm.
And Twilight Princess on the GameCube, he's left-handed. He
Mm-hmm.
uses a sword in the left hand. For the Wii, they just took everything and flipped it 180 degrees.
Is that true?
Yeah.
The Link is left-handed?
They just flipped it 180 degrees. And the reason why is
Yeah.
because they knew Americans with the Wii would be predominantly right-handed, so they switched it so you hold the sword with Twilight Princess with your right hand.
Wow, I never really noticed that.
Yeah.
I just looked at it. It's true.
Yeah. So Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, he holds a sword in his right hand
I was
because
just about to say that.
yeah, because those games are actually sold to like
Americans.
Yeah.
This says right here that Link is right-handed in Tears of the Kingdom as he has been since Skyward Sword. So apparently Skyward Sword forward, Breath of the Wild, he's right-handed.
Because
I've
Skyward
never
Sword,
realized that.
you can use a Wiimote as well, and it's because you have to be like most Americans are right-handed.
Ah,
It'd be
right-handed
weird
wins
if
again.
you were opposite. You'd be like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never even thought about that. That's
And so
interesting.
if you look at like Twilight Princess GameCube and Twilight Princess Wii, it's literally reversed. If you go into a dungeon on the GameCube, you're supposed to go to the right. On the Wii, you go into the dungeon and go to the left. It's all 100% reversed because they just, instead of making entirely new animations with their current thing for a different hand, they just went, let's just mirror the whole map and we'll call it a day. So,
yeah. Well, I'm going to ask you, I have a spin-off question to this.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I saw something that's confirmed that they're trying to make a live action Zelda movie, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like sort of nervous for them doing it. You know what I mean? Because it's gonna need to be like somebody to the caliber of like Peter Jackson or something like that to do it well, I think. But how do you think? Because they're gonna have to cast it so fucking perfectly. Like I'm gonna say this too. If they try to DEI the fuck out of this casting, I'm gonna be pissed. Right? Like it needs to be yeah, something, right? I don't know. Like it needs to be true to gameplay. It's not, it's just a game, it doesn't matter. Like, no, it fucking matters. Okay. To all of us who've grown up playing this game, it fucking matters, right? But how are they gonna get past Link not talking? Like, is it going to be like, because you've seen Witcher, right? Like, Geralt is very stoic. He does talk, but he is a lot of body language. And you know what I mean? Like, are they going to have to do Link in like a Geralt style, just not as fucking serious? Or like what? Like, what are they going to have to
goofy.
do?
He's got to like,
right.
He's got to like go, and like scream and stuff and go, make him do
They better not make him goofy.
He has to be a little goofy because he is weird. Link's a weird guy, so he's got to be a little goofy. And you could spin it to where he can talk to like characters, right? But make most of the movie where he's on his own, and give him Navi. Like give him Navi for Marguerite time, and Navi is the monologue and the thought process. That would make him talk way less.
I agree with that, and that's why I have my wife and I'm not going to say her name, but you know what I'm talking about. We talk about this pretty often. Like, would they do a completely total separate of all of the storylines movie just to not piss anybody off by not doing a certain game the right way, or do they pick a game and do it?
You know what I mean? Like,
You could do that
yeah,
too, but I think it would get real weird, because
yeah.
somebody's going to be like, "Oh, well, that wouldn't make sense with this storyline," and blah blah blah. You
It
know what I
doesn't
mean?
have to be Navi. It could be something they create just for the movie. But
Mhm.
there needs to be a
Or like
narrative source that's not Link, because like
so something similar to like
every
what you
game he's
said.
had one.
I was just
Every
say
game he
something
had one.
similar to like what you said is why her and I we say like I say like I think they should do Ocarina of Time. And
Mm-hmm.
she's like, she wants, because her favorite game is Twilight Princess. She's like, they should do Twilight Princess,
Yeah,
right? So like,
Minda,
obviously Twilight Princess,
yeah,
Midna, right,
yeah,
and then Ocarina of Time, and they have it has Navi. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But I don't know. I would rather see Ocarina of Time, because then you can even make it two movies, right? Because obviously you have the first half of Ocarina of Time with young Link, and you have the second half of Ocarina of Time with adult Link after he wakes up. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well,
But
if they did Ocarina of Time, because you then have time paradoxes, they technically could make any other
Mhm,
Zelda movie ever, and you
mhm,
just claim that this world was created because of him going back and forth between time and messing up timelines. Because
mhm.
that's
I
technically
think,
how the whole timeline of Zelda works. Is
yeah, it's not linear at all.
no, well,
If anybody's
it's
listening who's ever
linear
played
for
Zelda,
like
it's not
4
linear. Like,
games, and then it hits
yeah,
Ocarina of Time and it branches
right,
off into like
right.
7 different
Yeah,
lines.
how do you fit Phantom Hourglass into the Tears of the Kingdom and Breath
How
of the Wild,
how do you fit
line? You know what I mean?
Spirit
Like,
Tracks? It's a Zelda
yeah,
game where you're just going around
right,
making train routes.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Because like Majora's Mask is in the same line as Ocarina of Time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well,
So,
Majora's Mask is uh, if Adult Link failed,
mhm, basically,
and then Wind Waker is if Kid Link failed. It's like there's like different like
I could see
there's
that.
there's a
Is that
whole
like
bunch.
actual lore that Nintendo has said,
Yes,
or is this like fan fiction?
Nintendo actually came out a couple years ago with a set direct timeline.
Okay.
So Breath of the Wild is actually a prequel. It's not.
Mhm.
It's actually before Ocarina of Time.
Mm.
But Ocarina of Time is the split. So actually, I
And we
think
should say that, right? That's like something, if you've never played Zelda and you've lived under a rock, that Link is called the hero of time for a reason.
yeah, they travels through time often. Yeah,
Often.
it's
Yep.
not just in Ocarina of Time. But there's other
Yeah.
games where he moves
Oh,
around.
that's the common theme of Zelda.
Yeah,
Yeah.
constantly messing with the timelines. Can never get it right.
Hmm. It's kind of the perfect way to keep making video games too, when you think about it.
Yeah,
It
because they can
doesn't have
always
to really
just
matter. Yeah.
yeah. This exists because
The butterfly effect from this
he
game.
yeah, he hit a rock once in this one.
Right.
It maybe
Fell and
doesn't
cracked
happen.
his knee. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever. Exactly.
Whatever we
No, I
need
think
today.
they're gonna have to cast the absolute fuck out of this game, and I think they could get away with having Link. Like, people are gonna forgive like Link talking, like, forgive, I say, right? But I do think it's a good way around it by having Navi or Midna
Yeah.
or something like that be
Link
the.
Link needs to be like a Goku-esque character.
Well,
And what I mean by that is Goku is very weird and like dumb,
yeah.
except in stressful like
The Dragon Ball Z movies
needs
sucked.
yeah, I'm not talking about Dragon Ball Z. I'm talking about like his anime version because
Yeah.
like the actual Goku version. Um, he's really goofy and dorky and constantly getting in mischief and just doing weird stuff. But when it comes down to like, gotta save the world, gotta save the universe, gotta save this, he's very serious and very methodical. They can do that with Link. He can be like, he's, runs into the shop and throws a bunch of pots everywhere to get a couple rubies, and he's just being a goofball, and then walks out
Yeah.
and has to fight something serious. And during that time, he's like the manliest man you've ever seen. And then afterwards, he can't get his sword back in his sheath because he's like freaking out. Like you
Right.
could very easily like split personality Link in a way to where when crisis is happening, he's Keanu Reeves, and then John Wick, and then when the crisis is gone, he's Donkey from Shrek or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, man. They're gonna have to make it an epic as well. Like, if it's an hour and a half movie, I'm gonna be pissed. Like, if I see immediately that the runtime is 95 minutes,
No, it needs to be
I'm
like
like,
a
nope.
two-parter.
Yeah, it needs to be it needs to be Lord of the Rings level length. Like, again, reiterate my point. If I see the runtime is 95 minutes, and there's not a plan for like a sequel, I'm like, I already know that seeing this movie that you guys fucked up. There's no fucking way you did this movie in an hour and a half. No fucking way. So, yeah, and I'll get like, and this is probably why they've held off from doing a Zelda movie for so long, because of people like me that are going to be just absolutely incensed when they fuck it up. Yeah.
It's like the Halo show. Halo show. If you've never played Halo and you don't care about actual Halo story and lore, then you'll like the Halo show because that's the first time you'll see it. But if you are a diehard Halo fan, you watch the Halo show, it is painful to watch. It doesn't make any sense.
See, yeah, no, that's what I'm afraid of.
But the Fallout show doesn't have that issue, but it's different. The Fallout show never, like, all the Fallout games have their own individual stories, so you could have made the Fallout show anything. As long as it just existed in that world, it'd be good because you're not having to follow like an overarching plot or a story. Whereas like Halo is a very set story, and if you try to change it, it pisses people off. And I think with Zelda, they can technically just make their own story with elements from others, and it'd be okay because it doesn't need to be any specific game. Because Zelda is kind of like Fallout, where every game is its own story.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, I just hope that I really sincerely, as long as Nintendo keeps making Zelda games, I will keep buying Nintendo consoles. I will keep buying. Yeah. Like if I will be the old man in a nursing home playing the new Zelda game.
Yeah, without a doubt. And Wii Boy.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Whiskey. Yeah. Something. Exactly.
The current Zelda games of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom that won't be used anymore. The creators of Zelda came out and said that the next Zelda will not be that type. So don't expect.
I did. Yeah, I saw that. I hope it would be cool.
Any clones of that. Don't expect any elements from it. It's going to be entirely different. So they've said.
I hope that they keep the open world style and the map quality. You know what I mean? Because I think the map is wonderful. But it would be cool to see them do another game in the vein of Ocarina of Time that does have the traditional dungeons with the puzzles and all of that again. Yeah. I think. Because I honestly would be thrilled if they were like, hey, we've completely updated all the graphics for Ocarina of Time and are doing a release of Ocarina of Time with Tears of the Kingdom graphics. I'd be like, oh my god,
we're not gonna like just HD it. We're gonna like remake the whole thing and add stuff, make it more in depth.
Dude, I would buy that in a heartbeat. Like if they came out with that and like the interim between
credit card on the table.
Take my money. Yeah. If they came out with that in the interim between like Tears of the Kingdom and a new Zelda game, I would be ecstatic because I would love to play that game.
Nintendo usually uses Zelda to launch new consoles. Almost every new Nintendo console launches with a Zelda game. Just usually how they
pretty common.
Or it's very close. I know Breath of the Wild was a little late because it was delayed. So the Switch actually came out before. It was only been a couple months. But the new Nintendo console is like 2 to 4 years out, projected. We don't know for sure. And I could see them having enough time to make a good Zelda game, especially if they were making it before they released Tears of the Kingdom, which I don't see why they wouldn't. I'm assuming Nintendo probably is working on 2 to 3 Zelda games at a time. I don't think it's like one and then
knowing Nintendo, I could see that being a reality, even if it's just the architecture, getting things. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Because you can take the bones of Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom and just change it. Like, you don't have to remake a whole new game, and it can still be completely different. So
yeah, I'm sure they port over a lot of that stuff. So,
yeah. So I know that we'll get into Zelda in 2-4 years, and it'll launch with the new console.
And I will buy that one too. All right. My question for you: What is your most controversial take on a social or political issue, and then defend it? Total gear shift.
I'm going to go with crime and punishments.
Okay. So, in what way?
Almost like pretty much like if you commit like felonies, pretty much like something like severe crimes. So like
rape, murder, child crimes,
murder, all kinds of stuff. In today's America, if you commit any felony and are convicted of it, then you lose like half of your constitutional rights. Like a lot of them just aren't, like, they don't exist to you anymore. And I think that's wrong. So I believe that once either your time is served or your fine is paid, like your debt to society is over, then you should no longer be held back by your crimes. So, like, if you committed, like, I would say any of them, you commit murder and you get sentenced to jail for 25 years. And in those 25 years, you're good, you come out. Let's say you come out early because you're like on good conduct or something. So you come out 18
that
years.
happens. Yeah.
And you come out. You should be able to go buy a gun that day. I stand by that. Their debt to society.
You don't think there should be like a cooling off period, maybe?
No, the cooling off period was the 18 to 25 years of the time you're in jail. But for that to work, I also think our whole like jail system would need to be reformed properly. Right now, it's all just like isolationism and like just sit
not
there.
Actual rehabilitation.
Yeah, it's not rehabilitation. Or like teaching them to be better at what they were, what caused them to get in there. But yeah, no, but it's like,
what if you reoffend as a felon?
Then your next punishment should be death or lifetime
imprisonment.
Lifetime imprisonment. So then your rights wouldn't matter anymore, anyways. Yeah. Because like, so I mean, I have very serious ideals on certain like crimes. Like, I think if you ever rape anyone, and it was like, I gotta be careful the way I say this, because you could just be two drunk people having sex, and then the next day someone wakes up and they're like, "Oh, I want that." Is that rape? Yes, but it's like.
But if you're both drunk, then technically you both can't consent. So those are like offsetting fouls.
Yeah, so it's like
repeat first down.
Yeah, repeat. 5-year penalty. Repeat first.
No, offsetting penalties. Yeah. Right? If you're both drunk, technically you both can't consent, right? But you both did. Yeah.
I have a funny thing about. I have an interesting idea about that too, about consent and drunk too. It comes to driving. If you're drunk, you can't consent to like having sex. Then how can you consent to driving and then get a DUI? If you're not held to your decisions while drunk for certain things,
now therein is a conundrum there,
should
Zach.
you not be held for the decisions you make when you're drunk for all things?
That's an interesting question, because you're right. Like if you're too inebriated where you're not in your right mind to consent to a sexual act, I guess the difference would be that you are, because you could argue this too. What I was going to say is you're putting somebody's life in danger, other people's lives in danger by getting behind the wheel of your vehicle, right? But if you are
wrong,
but if you are, because like let's say this, like you're not drunk, but the girl you're sleeping with is drunk, like you're wrong. That's what I mean. She can't consent, right?
So that one, if you're both drunk,
that's that to me is like if you're both drunk, then that is what it is. You both had drunk, stupid sex, and you can regret it all you want, but there was no crime committed, in my opinion, right? Anyway, but I get what you're trying to say, that like if you can't hold me accountable for something, well, like consider this too, right? If you can't hold me accountable for something I did when I was drunk, how many times have you gone like, or you're at work, right, and you can't get a statement from somebody because they're too drunk to provide a statement, right? Yes. That's a thing too. Like this person is so drunk, I cannot legally collect a statement from them on whatever incident and have them say, to me, like, oh yeah, I remember consenting to give you a statement without a lawyer present or whatever, right? That's an interesting question. Maybe it's just the fact that it is just so dangerous getting behind the wheel of your car and getting on the highway and driving drunk that's why it is. But like, how many dumb things have you done that weren't DUIs while you were drunk, and you're like, and the next morning you're like, man, I was dumb. Even if the thing you regret doing was just getting that plastered that you have that bad of a hung the pain over.
Here's this. If you are super drunk, you're completely plastered, inebriated, and you think you're in the bathroom and start peeing, but actually you're in front of 5-year-olds in a
Mm.
park, you would get arrested for like predatory and like
Mm-hmm.
acts against minors, sexual like, and then like indecent
Yeah, you could have to
exposure.
register on the sex offenders
Yeah,
list.
you're held to that because even though you were drunk, tell you.
I feel like if you had a really good, like a good enough lawyer that you could legally ease your way out of having
Yeah,
to register as a sex offender, you know
yeah.
what I mean? For something like that. But I mean, yeah, I don't know.
That's its own.
There'd
That's
be a
its own
lot of
rabbit
people.
hole.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there'd be a lot of people that are like, man, that's too fine of a line, especially with a lot of the fucking shit that's going on
Mm,
now. Because I feel like those people are way more emboldened and brazen than they
yeah.
were even fucking 5 years ago. Like I don't know if it's just like if it's social media and it being such a prominent thing that it seems like it happens more often or that people are more out in the open about it.
Mm,
But I don't really think I think it could be partially that, but I also think that there's more advocates for that than there were before as
mm,
well. Can't believe you have an advocate for something like that.
yeah.
But, anyway. Yeah,
So
I would say this.
I think my hot
If,
take on
mhm,
like the thing I guess put down a hill about or whatever is just
uh-huh,
it's a lot of very specific things, but it's just like I think crime and punishment doesn't work today like the way we currently run it. It's just for a lot of
I
stuff.
agree.
Like
Mhm,
I think victimless crime should not be a thing. If
I
there is
agree.
no victim, then there was no
Hmm.
crime involved. Like,
Well, let me ask you this. Is selling drugs a victimless crime?
okay, so I don't think any drug should be illegal.
So you feel like like heroin, fentanyl, all of that should
Yeah.
be legal? Okay.
If you are an adult, you should have the ability and the right to put anything in your body or do anything with your body. It is your body. If
Okay.
you want to shoot heroin, cool.
Okay. So that's your take. So
Yeah.
so in your mind then selling drugs is a victimless crime because
It is.
it wouldn't be a crime in your
Yeah.
like world, I guess you'd say,
Yeah, it wouldn't
but
be a
that
crime.
also it's two consenting adults. I bought this from you and I intend on using it and there was an exchange of money and we
Yeah.
shook on it and now we're good. It's a
Yeah.
business transaction
Yeah.
essentially. Okay.
And that
I mean like I see
the
the
consenting adult
libertarian argument
taking the
there, but
heroin, yeah, they're gonna get addicted to it immediately, and then they're always gonna want it. But they
mhm.
knew that going into it. That's a thing they chose to do.
But what about this, right? Getting behind the wheel of a car high on heroin, would that be a crime to you?
If there's no victim involved, no. They don't hit
So
anyone.
if you
They don't.
drove high on heroin and you made it home, that
Victim was
should be
five.
hmm
We're
okay.
good.
But if you destroy somebody's property because you sideswiped 6 vehicles
Mhm.
driving down the neighborhood, or God forbid, you
Hit
killed
someone,
somebody,
yeah, that's a
then
victim. Yeah, that
that
crime
would
is
be
a
a crime.
victim. That's a crime. Yeah.
So putting somebody at risk isn't a crime, even if that's basically because you're putting
If
other
they put
people that.
themselves in that risk, like they chose to be in that risk, then it's not. It's a victim. It's a victimless crime because
Yeah,
if
there's
I
a lot of arguments
yeah
in that because like you know I guess you're now arguing like probability, because the
yeah
intent. This is like the whole gun argument, right?
mm,
You driving while intoxicated or driving under the influence. Those are both illegal things, but they
mm,
happen every day.
yeah
Crime. It's like that joke, like make crime illegal again. Like well, it's everything that's a crime is illegal, and it still doesn't prevent. It probably does prevent, right? Like I know for a fact, like I've not done shit like DUI because I
mm,
know it's illegal and I don't want something bad to happen to me or
yeah.
somebody else, right? Because I have
You're
a
a
moral
morally
conscience
good
and
person.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. But at the same time, like, I guess it's a way to try and prevent that crime, but basically try and prevent loss or injury, like loss
Yeah,
of
you're
life,
trying to
property, or
prevent
injury.
loss or injury by making it so they can't do the thing that potentially cause it. But
Hmm. Do you
so
think that
so
that
that
would go up? Like DUIs would go up?
no. So and the reason why is I'm gonna use marijuana as an example. Washington State, their biggest like opponent to legalizing marijuana is they were afraid that if they made it just as easy to get as alcohol or anything else, right? Or any other cigarettes, pretty much. Um, that uh, um, more like DUIs would happen because people would not realize that marijuana stays in their system longer. Like if you drink one beer in an hour, you should be good, right? But marijuana, depending on what it is, it teaches a whole bunch of like variables. You could take one hit and be good in 20 minutes, or you could take one hit and be down for the count for like 6 hours. So like there's so many different variables there, and Washington State was really worried that if they just open the floodgates, if you're 18 or older, or I think it's 21, if you're 21 or older, you can smoke weed as long as it's like, in your residence, whatever, can't be in public places, can't be like that. It has to be in your own residence. They were afraid though that the DUIs for marijuana would go up. DUIs overall, even for alcoholism, actually went down.
Right.
So,
is that the same everywhere?
I just only know Washington State's information because that's the state that I'm from. I don't know any other states, but every state that's legalized that hasn't like come out later and said, "I want to stop this now. I want to make way too much money off taxes with it." But I think if you were less strict on things and got rid of victimless crimes, I don't think crime would go up. There would be a spike because it'd be the crazies at first, like, oh, look at me. But after, because like when you were in like high school or when weed was illegal, more people probably did weed because it was the crazy thing to do. But once it became legal, I'm willing to bet less people actually use the drug because now it's just, all right, I can just get high whenever I want.
Yeah,
You know what I
so
mean?
that argument I make often for Europeans because beer and alcohol is a more common thing throughout somebody's life.
Yeah.
So that like you don't have American college students, they go to school and they get shit faced because they can finally have alcohol.
Yes.
But it's like a common thing. Like there are drunk, stupid Germans or French people or whatever, but like it's not like this forbidden thing you're attaining to. But here, I found an article. This is from the National Institute of Health, right? .gov. So this is from 2022. It says they found an increase in driving under the influence over time, with a larger increase occurring in states that enacted medical cannabis laws during this time period. And this is between 1991 and 2013. Compares to states that enacted these laws before or after the analytic time period. So basically seeing there's not enough data before or after. But so there was an increase in those states with the medical marijuana usage, because that's like how it started, I guess.
Yeah, I know Washington, they had it. I think Washington legalized it in 2016 or 2007. It was a while ago.
Again, look that up.
But I know that theirs did spike, and then it dropped off like a couple years later. Like it went below what it was beforehand.
2012, it says, was when Washington legalized, and it legalized it for medicinal use in 98.
Yeah. But yeah, obviously it's gonna spike. If tomorrow you said murder is legal, like it's just an extreme. There's gonna be dudes like, fuck my boss, and that boss is dead. Like there'll be anarchy and chaos, but eventually people will be like, all right, guys.
So you think there would be like
mellow out.
A period of time where it would ramp up and then it would level out?
It's like the purge. Purge movies. Yeah. If you just have like one day or 1 week where just get out of your system. I think that actually.
I also have to say too, like I don't know, I didn't read. I'm just like full disclosure, didn't sit here and read this entire NIH article. So it could just be saying, DUIs went up because now we're counting, cannabis DUIs as DUIs. So the DUIs from alcohol, right? And then we threw the weed DUIs on top of that. So of course the number went up. I don't know how they broke that down. You know what I mean?
There's also Washington State, you can get an EDUI, an electronic driving under the influence.
What the hell is that?
So
playing Fast and Furious high?
No, it's like you're on your phone. Whatever.
Oh, cell phone usage?
DUI. Yeah. So
that's stupid calling it a DUI.
So it's because the reason they made it more strict because people still were using their phone. So now they made it equal to the same level as if you got a DUI. So your insurance rates go way high. You're gonna lose your license. Like if you
If
get
you get
caught,
caught with it, or if it's the reason why you kill somebody with your car.
if you get caught on your phone, EDUI
I think that's
also.
excessive as fuck, to be
It's
honest with
Washington
you.
State.
Yeah.
EDUI also includes food. If
Like,
you are eating while
I get it
driving,
that it's considered distracted
yeah,
driving if you're eating a cheeseburger or you're
yeah,
doing your makeup in the fucking rearview mirror or you're on your phone. I agree, right? And I do think you should be ticketed for driving and texting. There's been so many times where I've like been behind somebody on the highway and they're all over their lane and I go around them and they're fucking like they're doing this. You know what I
You
mean?
want to
Like,
know what's funny
and
about that? So like, you can't have this in your hand. You can't have a phone in your hand, right, while you're driving. Um, but all cars today usually have like Apple CarPlay or like
yeah,
some type of connectivity to
hands
your
free.
dash. But like, it's so yeah, it's hands free. But I promise you, like 99% of people are not using the like Siri function to do anything. They're just
Mm-hmm.
pressing the stuff on their
Right.
screen while still driving. But there's nothing that says you can't do that.
Yeah. I've had this discussion before too. Like if I'm looking over at the center console to change a song, and like maybe I skip a song because my playlist is on random and I
Yeah,
don't like the next couple of songs and I'm
yeah,
just skipping. And like yeah, they have like some of the steering wheels have the skip song function too.
yeah.
But like if you're going through the Spotify on your phone versus on your and on the console, like what
Mm-hmm.
really is the difference?
Same thing.
You know what I mean?
The same
Yeah,
thing.
I agree.
It's just a
Yeah.
bigger phone.
I do think that eating while driving is not the same as being on your phone while driving. Because I can lift up my fucking cheeseburger and look at the road and eat it. Like, am I as effective as I would be without a cheeseburger in my hand if something started happening and you take control of my car?
Mm-hmm.
No.
No.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But I'm also not doing this. You know what I mean? So I don't think it should be the same level as a
That
DUI. Now, if
that
you get caught
same
like on a traffic camera running somebody down while you're on your phone, like,
oh,
yeah, you fucking,
I think
you killed
traffic
somebody or you
cameras
hurt
are
somebody.
illegal, but
Yeah. Well, dude, I swear to God, man, I can tell you, like in Germany, when I lived there, the speed cameras, they make so much money off of those fucking things. It's crazy. You don't ever see a cop. You don't get pulled over for speed. You get a fucking ticket in the mail with your photo like this,
yep.
your hand on a fucking wheel.
So in Spokane, there was right by the house I lived. Speaking, it was like 30 there. They put up a camera for like a 3 block thing, and it's because there's a lot of crashes and people getting hit there, so they put a speeding camera there. But the speeding camera, it takes a picture of you as you're driving away, and it doesn't take the picture of you as you're coming in. And I got hit, right? It said, my car was speeding through that area, and I was like, you know what? You can't prove I was driving. There's no picture of me operating this vehicle. Is it my vehicle? Yes. But am I the one driving it? Who's to say? So I fought it. And so I went to court and everything. I'm still going to the judge. And I just straight up told him, I was like, it's the burden of the proof of the state. It's the burden of the state to prove that I actually broke the law. Yes, it is my
Mhm.
vehicle. Yes, it was speeding in this area. I'm not disputing that. Both of those are true. But you have not proved that I was the one driving. And then the judge asked me, well, were you driving? And I said, well, I can't self-incriminate. And I plead the fifth. And if
Mhm.
there's no officer present to prove I was driving,
Mhm.
the ticket was thrown out. The judge said, all right, and he threw it out.
I mean, that's good for you, but that's a
Yes.
stupid way to handle business for them. You know what I mean? Like if
Yeah.
that's their goal,
Yeah. So
bro.
it was hilarious. I was like, oh, that was an easy win. So if they don't have like a picture of you doing it, but
Mhm.
even then, like, so those cameras, most of them, they go to like a hub in like Arizona. It's like usually it's like this random like hub in Arizona, and there's an officer there in Arizona who is just like or officers, like hundreds of them, and they just get these pictures. And they just verify, yeah, that car is speeding. Yeah, sure, cool. It's not like an anomaly. And then they sign a ticket, and then it gets sent to you. So most of these tickets that you get from these traffic cameras aren't even from officers in your state. They're from like some other state. So
I've never
for
even
all,
got a traffic camera ticket here in the U.S. I've only ever gotten them when I was in Europe.
I'm talking about in the U.S. So if you ever get
Mm-hmm.
uh, one, you as the accused have the right to face your accuser. So
Mm-hmm.
you should always ask for the officer who wrote you the ticket to be present. And that officer in Arizona is not going to get on a freaking plane and fly to you in
For
Northern
like $80 speeding
California
ticket,
or
or yeah, like a
Maine or what.
$400 speeding ticket in
Yeah,
California. Yeah.
for a speeding ticket. And then you could easily be like, well, the officer's not here to prove that I was speeding,
Mm-hmm.
so who's to say it was me anyways? Like
Well, I'll say this, that
they're
the
banking on you not fighting it. They're banking on you going, whatever, and that you just sign, pay, move on with your day.
mhm. The couple times that well, it's more than a couple times, but the times that I went to court for tickets that I wrote when I was in Montana,
Okay.
there were other people that showed up that had tickets written for them. And if the officer did not show up in court, but they did, I saw the judge both throw out the ticket, or if the person came in and said they wanted to plead guilty, the judge waived like the court processing fee, and all they had to pay was the actual fine amount. So their
Yeah.
ticket went from like, I don't remember, like 65 down to 40 or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so like it is always better to just go to court for a
Yeah.
couple hours and wait for your turn to get called. And then, and even then I've seen people too that like, yeah, the issuing officer was there, but they appeared in court and they admitted to their guilt, that the judge was like, thanks for being here, and waived the court processing fee, and then
Mm-hmm.
they just had to pay the fine amount. It is
Yeah.
always better to just go. In
Yeah.
my
It's always better to
experience that
go
I've seen.
or hire a traffic lawyer just to
Yeah,
fight
I guess
on your
if you're
behalf.
that fucking serious, yeah.
Yeah, if it's a serious fight. But even like usually they get like those get thrown out too, or like you get somebody lower. Because like the amount of money you're gonna spend on a traffic lawyer, you're gonna save, and your insurance rate's not going up.
That's a good point.
So it's like, cool, yeah, pay that $100 ticket, but your insurance rate's gonna go up, and you're gonna be paying that for a while. It's more than $100 ticket. It's gonna become
Oh yeah,
a
yeah.
$1,000
Over time.
citation over time.
Yeah,
So
you're right. Good
that
point.
$400 for that quick lawyer might save you a couple grand. So
Right. I'll say that my most, I guess I feel like is more controversial take on something is the abortion argument.
so I wanted to
That,
say something about that, but go
well,
ahead. Go ahead.
so I'm gonna say this, right? That is like the one time I agree with Hillary Clinton that abortion should be safe, legal, and rare, right? And I say rare because there should be certain instances where, in my mind, right, I don't think abortion is okay, right? And I would never ask somebody to go get one, right?
Mhm.
But that if you are raped or your child is the product of incest, or in the process of carrying the baby to term, your life is at risk, or your child will not be viable when it's born. Like those are things I look at and say that is allowed, right? It's okay
Mhm.
to do that because of
Mhm.
those things, right? But I will say this, that if men truly have no say in whether or not a woman gets an abortion, right? Because like they are the ones carrying it to term, then if I can't say to you, well, no, you have to carry this baby full term because I want to be a dad, even if you're not ready to be a mom,
Yeah.
then a man should have just as much right to say, cool, if you want to be a mom and carry this baby to full term, that I should have the right to say, well, I want nothing to do with it, and you should have no say in that whatsoever. And
Yep.
I legally sign away my rights. And I'm not saying I would ever do that. I'm not even
Yeah.
saying that's a good
It
thing.
does need to be
I'm
an
just
option,
saying
though.
that's fucking fair.
Yeah.
I'm saying that's
Yeah.
fair. If we're
Yeah.
going down this path, then men should have some sort of protection as well in that
Yeah.
regard. Because if I can't make you a mother, you can't force me to be a father by forcing me into that and then going to get a job and providing for you and all these other things.
Yep.
Because there are men, and I've seen this, there's probably a lot less men than women, right? But
Mhm.
that well, I would rather you just give birth to the baby and I'll take the child and raise it and you don't have to be a mother, right?
Mhm.
So, but that's my like controversial take because I've said it
Yeah,
before, and a lot of people get bent out of shape about it. But that if I can't, if I don't have a say in you having an abortion, and it's your right to go do that, and I don't think it's a right. I'll say that.
yeah, it's not right.
That no, if that's your decision and solely your decision to go have an abortion, and I don't have a say in it, then you should not have a say in if I decide that I don't want to
Yeah,
participate in this anymore.
there should
That's
honestly
my
be like
thing.
a time frame. Like, I don't think the day before the baby's born, the father can say, "I'm out." I think it needs to be
Yeah, sure.
discussed.
Because
Like,
you can't
yeah,
have a 39-week abortion. You can't do
yeah,
that. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
it's
Like,
not.
no, I agree with you. There should be a
Yeah,
certain time limit for you to say, like, I made my decision and I went to the courthouse and signed all my documents and, you know,
yeah,
whatever. So,
and I would say with like, I guess I have kind of a controversial take on abortion too, but um, when it comes to having just recently gone through pregnancy, I was pregnant, but going through like the pregnancy
you sure?
stuff, yeah, I'm sure, going through the pregnancy stuff, and then having our daughter one of those with my wife at every appointment, was going through it all with her and all that type of stuff, and seeing that we knew our child's like full like health, like if she was going to have any genetic defects, any like birth defects, any like brain issues, like autism, all that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We knew her gender. We
Yeah.
knew if we knew her like blood, like we knew all of this by like week 4. Okay.
Yeah.
That's how good like uh um modern medicine is today, by like week 4. So a third of the first trimester, we already knew all the information. I think that should be the cutoff for abortion. I think if you're like, it's not like, whatever your reason is, I can't afford a baby. I'm not ready to be a parent. I don't think that I want to go through this. Whatever it is, the cutoff to terminate that child should be like a month, maybe 2 months into the pregnancy. I don't think it should be any later than that.
Yeah.
And after that point, now you have to give birth, and if you don't want the kid after that, then it goes up for adoption. Like, but there should be no second trimester abortions. There should be no third trimester abortions for sure. Like, if you, as an adult, had the time to sit down, have sex, knowing the consequences, to potentially make a baby and not practice safe sex, then you should have the time and the adultness to sit down and decide relatively early on if you want to be a parent or not. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
not that
Yeah.
hard.
And you could have all kinds of arguments about, well, is a 16-year-old really going to be a responsible parent? More than likely, no. But at the same point, that's why you should have education in school teaching you that the result of having sex could very well be a child, right?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where the option there is adoption. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. If there should be a cutoff, I guess, for that decision for a guy to be like,
Yeah.
all right, well, I want to be able to get out of this, and you don't have an option whether I stay
Yeah.
or not. If I don't have an option in making you keep a baby, which I totally understand that because, I can't force somebody to do something with their body, right? There's a body autonomy issue
Yeah.
there, obviously, and that's fair, right?
Mhm.
Then you don't have a right to force me to work more and dedicate my life to
Yeah.
something if I don't want to. So
That's slavery.
that's the exact opposite of
Yeah.
rights. If something
Yeah.
requires somebody else's labor for you on your behalf, it is not a right, which is why, again, like, also medical care is not a right at
No.
all. Because somebody goes to school to learn how to be a doctor. They
Yeah.
don't owe you a fucking thing.
Yeah.
It is not a right that you
Forcing
have
a
over somebody else.
doctor or a medical practitioner perform care on you just because you believe is it a right is a very convoluted way of slavery. You're
Well, yeah, for
forcing
sure.
their labor.
You owe me
Yeah.
this because I need a liver transplant
Yeah.
or I need whatever, X, Y, and Z. Yeah, absolutely. If it requires
Now, is
somebody else's
healthcare really
labor,
expensive for some
yeah.
freaking reason?
Is our
Yes.
healthcare system
Yeah.
broken? Yes.
Yeah.
Are insurance companies a fucking scam? Yes.
Yes.
But a doctor doesn't owe you anything.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are. And there are plenty of doctors who go and do free work in places that don't have the opportunity. Doctors Without Borders, like things like that. These groups of people, because they're good people and they take the Hippocratic oath to help anybody. But at the same time, they don't owe you eye surgery or
there's
fucking dick
the
surgery.
yeah. A lot of people forget the Emergency Healthcare Act was put in effect by Ronald Reagan.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a serious health issue that's detrimental to your life, limb, or eyesight, it's just covered by the U.S. government.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't know that. You have to fill out a bunch of forms to get it approved. So, like, if you have no insurance and you have no money, and a dude randomly stabs you on the street and you're gonna die, that care is actually free.
I didn't know that.
Yep. It's the
You
emergency.
just have to ask for the right forms at the hospital or something?
Yeah, you just have to fill it out right and all that type of stuff. And obviously the hospital, because it's a private entity, is probably gonna not help you out well because they want to get their cash and their money, whatever. But yeah, if people did more research on the rights they actually had, they would realize that they're fighting for things that already exist.
Yeah, I get your point.
It's like,
well, it's like all this shit, you see these fucking college kids at Columbia University. I've seen a couple of clips now where they're asking college kids, why are you protesting? Or like I saw one where she was just yelling fascist at somebody and she couldn't even tell you why that person was fascist or what fascism was exactly.
Because it felt good to be there.
Right, it's it. You don't even know what the fuck you're doing. You could be, it's like that joke you see where that guy's walking around with a petition asking people to sign it to ban dihydrogen monoxide, right? It's like, it's so fucking retarded. Oh yeah, it's in pesticides and we really want to keep the hydrogen monoxide. Yeah, and they're like, oh my God, yeah, of course, it's in pesticides, it's terrible. Yeah. He's like, it's a main ingredient in pesticides. Like, oh man, let me definitely, your body. Yeah, let me just go ahead and ban this. You know what I mean? Like, you don't fucking know. And it goes back to you and I we bring up stoicism quotes sometimes, from it's Marcus Aurelius' thing. It's okay to not have an opinion on this. You don't have to go. And like the one I saw too, where they were interviewing this girl and they were like, well, why are you here? And she's like, I really don't know. We just saw something that said New York University students need help protesting. And you see these pictures too of all these protesters camping out at these camps. They've all got the same fucking green tent. Like somebody's funding this shit.
High school walkout things, and mostly kids there. I stayed because I don't want to be in school today.
Yeah,
I saw
right after, maybe like a week or two after the Hamas attack in Israel, there was a video, I think I may have sent it to you on Instagram when you were still on Instagram, of some kids in a high school in San Francisco. And they were just walking in a line, walking up and down the hallways, yelling, from the rivers to the sea, Palestine will be free. And they were just yelling it. Like,
don't even know what it
okay,
means.
Cool. Break down the geopolitical issues going on in that region. No? Can't do it? You saw something? You got a keffiyeh off of fucking Amazon for $12? That's okay? Yeah? Okay. You feel important now? Running up and down the hallway yelling that? Okay. Like, that's it. That's it.
Does what you are doing make you feel good, or does it actually do good? Usually.
There it is.
Usually, if it's actually doing good, it took a lot out of you, and probably didn't feel that good.
And I'll say this, man. It's totally your right to protest. It is totally your right to protest. It's also your right to not be informed and be an uninformed dumbass at a protest. There were plenty of times where I didn't know what the fuck I was talking about, and I've said something, and I'm just like, oh, I was wrong, and that happens. But at the same time, like, maybe fucking learn about what you're going out there and protesting. You might learn something.
Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, and I, as a still serving active duty member of the United States Armed Forces, will continue to fight and potentially die for your right to your wrong opinion.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. Good for you for exercising your right to protest. But maybe do it. And I respect you a lot more if you're out protesting and you can give me the issues you have with it, with something and why you're protesting. Fair enough. But if you're like, if I'm like, why are you protesting? You're like, I really have no fucking idea. And what the fuck are you doing,
I'm here because
dude?
the guy with the megaphone told me to be here.
I'm here. Yeah, exactly. Right. The dark side has cookies. You know what I mean? It's like that joke. That's why I'm here. There was Oreos there was Oreos and fucking falafel in the Palestine camp.
I would also join the dark side just because Darth Vader looks sick. Like,
Sure.
sorry, dude. Like, you look awesome. I'm
That's
just
true.
Follow you. I got a stormtrooper friggin' suit. All right, sign me up. Can we
Oh, my gun always
501st?
misses.
Could be a 501st. Got it. They missed
think
those
it's your
shots
question.
on purpose.
Oh, okay. Is that what it is?
Yeah, in episode 4, they put the tracking device on the Millennium Falcon. They couldn't kill them all before they left the Death Star. They had to scare them into making them think that they're getting away at the skin of their teeth so they could track them to Hoth.
Well, but I mean, there's a bunch of other footage in those movies of stormtroopers not being accurate at all.
It's usually in parts where there is a reason why they would not need to kill that specific group of entities. You're following the main characters, yes, they have plot armor, but like you're talking like the General of the Resistance, the Last Jedi, Luke. Like there's a lot of very key characters here, and I'm willing to bet the higher ups of the Empire are like, you can't kill that person. I need them alive. So every time you see that person, you miss.
Okay, stormtroopers are better shots than I think. Apparently,
they have to be. Literally in episode 4, when they go to when Ben Kenobi and Luke go back to the his parents' house and they're dead and laid wasted, Ben says, "Oh, these shots are too accurate to be raiders. It has to be like stormtroopers." So you're telling me these people came in there and actively murdered these two, like
maybe it was point blank, like in point blank. You know what I mean? Like maybe even Tusken Raiders can't hit you from 3 inches away. Apparently,
yeah, they can't.
I don't know.
You try to see out of monocles this far off your face.
Just drunk goggles, right? The beer goggle things. Yes. I think it's your question.
It is. So we've had conversations a little bit personally about this time in your life, but I'm curious about what was it like being homeless for a year in Germany?
Good question.
When, how, and why did that happen?
Yeah. Well, I'll say this, right? I wasn't completely homeless for a whole year, but I've spent a good portion of the time finding a way to not be home. And like I slept on the couch in my flight office a few times. Well, more than a few times.
Wait. I slept in my. You were active duty?
When I was active duty. Yeah.
Okay.
And I slept in my car in the BX parking lot a few times. I had a few friends that let me sleep in their spare bedroom a few times, and then eventually, my good friend on my flight, who basically started dating his girlfriend and was living in her apartment, but he was still paying the rent at his apartment.
Yeah,
let me
pay was still covering some of the place.
Let me live in his apartment while he wasn't living there. And that I did for like 2 months, I think, until I was able to basically find somebody willing to let me live. Say he had a split level home, like basically like a townhome, but like one was on the bottom and one was on the top.
Yeah.
And I lived on the top, and without a contract, I rented it from him for like €500 a month, which is way cheap. But well, considering what the rent was, everywhere else, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why is because there is not any sort of contingency plan when you're overseas as a military member and you're going through a situation like a divorce, when your spouse doesn't want to give up their SOFA status and move back to the United States. And because of that, when you're not living with them anymore, all of your OHA, your overseas housing allowance, goes to your spouse. And so it essentially leaves you with no money
There's like a regular, like a calculator, and it's very in the favor of
It's
the
actually
dependents.
Army regulation,
Yeah.
and you have zero choice in this.
Mm-hmm.
They get all that money, and it leaves you with just your base pay to find a place to live and buy your own food and pay your bills, right? And that's not a lot. Your base pay is not a lot of money, especially in a
Mm-hmm.
country whose currency is stronger than the dollar. And so basically, I had nowhere to live. All of my housing assistance was going to somebody else. And yeah, I mean, it fucking sucked. I really cannot tell you. Like, there were times where, like, I went out to my car.
You could have gone real card because you were
Nope.
married, right? You
Well,
could
yeah,
have,
married. It was all these different things, and
yeah.
there's no. And I even went to the shirt I had, the first
Can't
sergeant I
live in the
had at the time,
dorms.
and
Like,
asked him, I was
yeah.
like, "Can I? Is there like a temporary? I can just stay in a dorm room for a certain period of time?" And my squadron was completely and totally aware that I had nothing. I had nothing. And there were times where I went out to my car and sat in my car and waited until all of the rest of my swings flight went home, like left, right? And I was normally like one of the one or two last people that, like, maybe the master sergeant would hang around a little longer, but I would go and punch the code into my fucking flight office and then sleep on the futon there because it was warm. It was just like the end of the year, so it was like fall in Germany, fall and winter. It's cold. And
Were you like showering, shaving at McDonald's gym?
I was. That's
Uh-huh.
what I would do. And because there's no contingency plan, and people
Yeah.
knew what I was going through and knew what was happening. And basically the shirt was like, all I can do is give you a dorm room for 72 hours. And I was like, well, fuck that. Like, that's more, what's the fucking point? You know what I mean? I don't want to do that. And I was like, so what option do I have? Because there's no option to force the other person in this situation to return back to the United States. That's illegal. You
Yeah.
can't do that.
You can do an early return dependent, so the dependent has to agree.
It is. The ERD process is voluntary.
Yeah.
And so yeah, no, the entire 18 months basically that I was there until I PCS back to the United States, I collected no housing allowance until my divorce was final, and then I started getting it again. And I fucking
Where
wound up
was
in.
so your ex-wife was still in Germany this whole time?
Yep. So she went and got her SOFA sponsor, status of forces agreement, by AFIS. So she had her own SOFA sponsorship at some point. So even my sponsorship that she had, the SOFA sponsorship from being with me, was gone. So she, and so
Yeah.
like, eventually, like, she got her own ID cards and stuff like that because she was sponsored by AFIS and all this shit. And, but anyway, yeah. So, but I didn't have the housing allowance and all that crap. And I'm really thankful that I had good friends who let me crash in their fucking, and it sucked too because like I was having to go back over to the house that I used to live in, like if I wanted to see like my daughter, and basically get fucking abandoned there because I had no idea where the other person was going. And like those were a day or two where I had that place to sleep at. You know what I mean? But yeah, I slept on the fucking futon there in the flight office. I slept over at my good friend Pete's house a few times. Actually, yeah, I probably did there more than anybody else, and slept in my car, the Ramstein BX parking lot, a few times.
What's
Yeah.
crazy is that army rank that calculates like the pay in
Mm-hmm.
there. The army actually has this thing that they take care of the military member. So it's kind of funny how great the Air Force thinks it is over the other branches, yet it failed
Mm-hmm.
so hard at this. Because if the
Oh
army
yeah.
person was in your same situation, they would have just been put in the dorms.
Yep.
But the army also and the Marines, if you're single or in that situation, you're in the dorms until you're E6 anyway.
E6.
So,
Yeah. And I was in E6 at the time. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
So I guess it's a little bit
But
different. But
right. But no, man. I even So because my squadron has some Germans that work for us, because our job was off-base law enforcement with the German police and the German populace, there is a couple of dorm buildings that are reserved for the ZPs, as we call them ZPs. And even if they didn't use the room assigned to them, that room was still apportioned to that person. And I even had, because I had several ZPs who were my friends, that went and told like their ZP leadership to tell like the American squadron leadership that like, hey, I live here with my family. Like, I'm never going to use that room. Like, he can have it,
Yeah, he
and
had a room.
they wouldn't give it to me. Yeah,
because it's probably like
again, painted into some fucking corner where they couldn't let me or whatever. You know,
yeah,
oh well,
like
you're defrauding the government. You know what I mean? It would, I mean, you know,
there was a when I was deployed to Curacao, your family, because the deployed or the full was on Curacao, where we would actually go do stuff with somewhere else. But so Curacao was good for like family and friends to come visit you. Like they could come visit you on your deployment, which is crazy. And you could take leave. So like you could like take a week off on your deployment, and like spend time with like your friends or family. But so we lived in a hotel off the there's no housing or anything or dorms on the full. So we lived in a hotel like 30 minutes away, drive to work all the time. But there was like extra rooms. So like the Air Force or the DoD just paid for like this whole half of the hotel. Because like because like you get TUIs that come through, like a whole bunch of stuff. So they just had rooms for whenever military personnel was there. I kid you not, like 2/3 of that was empty most of my deployment. Like you have like the deployed people, but like 2/3 was empty. So if your like my mom and dad came to visit me, and they were allowed to stay for free in one of those rooms because it was already paid for anyways. So it's like,
dude, do you fucking remember when? Do you remember when we were in fucking Kenya? I pointed it out to a few people. You may have seen it too. Maybe I pointed it out to you there. But there was that like really old couple that just for like a day or two was wandering around the camp, and they were eating food, and they would walk back to a hutch. It was like a really like had to be in their late 70s. Some old white guy and some old Asian dude or some old Asian woman.
I'm pretty sure that was Colonel Smith's parents.
It could have been. Well, I don't know because the woman was Asian.
He is half Asian.
Was he?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I didn't know that. It didn't look, to me, it didn't look it, but whatever. They were walking, they walked around camp for a few days. I remember thinking, like, what the fuck is this? Some, like, retired 4-star who just, like, the Air Force flies around and thinks this location is that safe, even though it fucking isn't, and we knew it wasn't. And they just were vacationing there. Because I remember they were eating at the fucking chow hall. They went into I remember them walking into the MWR and looking around and walking out too. And I was like, who the fuck are these people?
I bet that was the base commander Colonel Smith's like parents.
I just to say this, all those fucking quote unquote leaders at that deployment were pieces of shit. Leaders. The fucking senior Yates, she's not a fucking senior anymore. She was fucking trash. How are you a fucking medic and spent all of GWAT without a fucking deployment, and your first deployment is as a senior master sergeant? The first sergeant, they got fucking shit faced out there that I confronted multiple times. Like, just fuck all those people, dude.
I got assigned to recruiting duty.
Wish I remember her name. I'd say her fucking name too. I can't remember her name either.
But I remember I got assigned recruiting duty there, and like there's a bunch of stuff I had to get like done, like per like recruiting Air Force stuff. And no matter how many times I told them I'm deployed, I can't do that. They'd be like, "Well, it's gotta be done," like blah blah. So like, go to leadership and be like, "Hey, they say I have to go do a physical, even though I had to do a physical to deploy. They say I need a current physical. Like, how do I get a physical?" And they're like, "Well, we can like send you to Djibouti and you can get one of."
This is so you're gonna compromise,
right like
right?
There's literally a major who does like pseudoscience on us in the freaking MWR.
There literally was, yeah.
Who could? He like walks around.
He was like, "Hey, I actually do chiropractic in my part time. If you want to come over." You remember that?
Yeah. Hey, you want to get all snapped up?
Yeah, dude. Well, dude, I just remember because I showed up fucking to deployment and I had a double ear infection, and to be fair, like the camp, medical shack or whatever you want to fucking call it, didn't have anything. Didn't have antibiotics or anything. Yeah, and some anti-venom, right, for all the fucking venomous snakes out there. Yeah. No, not hot blues. That's Japan. Fucking Black Mama, Green Mama, Boon Slings, Puff Adders, all those fucking things.
All the
Anyway,
things your wife would randomly go decapitate and
she
carry
would.
around.
And yeah. But no, he was like, hey, all I've got for you is really strong allergy meds and it'll dry your head out. And dude, I swear to you, bro, I still have issues with my ears because those ear infections never went away. And for 2 fucking weeks, it just sounded like everything everybody was saying was underwater. It was crazy.
Sounded like you were talking to the Peanuts teacher.
Kind of, man. I could barely hear everybody, and like it hurt, obviously, and it just like my ears felt heavy, and just for 2 fucking weeks, it was pretty miserable. Hard to sleep, all that shit.
Was a weird guy.
He was very weird.
He always had like a smell to him, and like I was like.
He wore weird clothes too.
You like bathe, right? He would walk around in his like uniform with like no boots or socks, and he would say that it was good for his like it's good for your health to like walk barefoot and be grounded to the earth. I was like, dude, who hired you?
No, I remember that he was a Jacksonville Jaguars fan.
He was like a closet super hippie or something because he
probably.
He always, what I was saying is he always had like a little bit of funk to him. I remember one day I went there because like I think I like slightly fell out of the tower and kind of like bumped my elbow and it was like aching or whatever. And so I went to him and I was like, I just need like something better than Tylenol or like a brace. Like, do you have anything?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I got like a soft thing. So I wore that for like a month or whatever. I think it helped. I don't know. I don't have any pain anymore or whatever. But like. When I was in there for my checkup, he was going on and on and on about how like modern soaps are bad for the skin. You got to make your own soap, blah, blah, blah. And he makes his own soap. And he always smelled funky because his soap wasn't very effective.
I didn't know he made his own soap.
Yeah.
I just remember he was really weird.
He would be making soap in his office.
Fucking animal fat. He was just rendering it in the fucking hooch. Like, what the fuck? I didn't know that.
Probably going out getting those water buffaloes I was murdering with the Humvees.
Yeah, right. I remember that.
Turn them into soap.
Fuck the Humvee up more than anything.
Yeah,
funny.
I remember the Humvee mechanics. They were like, "You did not hit a water, but what actually happened?" I'm like, "I'm telling you, what actually happened. I hit a water buffalo. Like, what do you think happened?"
Yeah,
so stupid.
Is it my turn?
Yes.
Okay. Would you or would you not say that there is an unreconcilable dichotomy in the statement, we can't be the world's police?
You used a lot of big words there, Brandon. I'm going to need you to break those down.
I got you. So when I say, would you or would you not say that there's an unreconcilable dichotomy in the statement, we can't be the world's police, right? Mm-hmm. All of us are very sick and tired of funding wars around the world, right? And keeping our outspoken enemies at bay, so to speak, right? But would you say that the dichotomy in that is that you're losing ground as the world's hegemon, and that there will be fallout that will not be good for the United States in the long run, and that really just opens up the door for I guess you could say the main power of the US to fade completely. That if we're not the world's police, then we're not anything.
It's like damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, that's where the word dichotomy comes in.
Okay. So you're asking me if it is a dichotomy?
Well, yeah, I'm saying, do you think there's a way to reconcile that dichotomy, that you can be both not be the world's police and still maintain that big stick that everybody is afraid of? If you let this one go, right, you let Ukraine fall to Russia, right, that the way it looks isn't that the U.S. has lost its power, that maybe it's just, I mean, it's lost its luster, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But that, is there a way to say we can't be the world's police, but we are still that top dog, and if you fuck with us, you know, you will be on the losing end of the stick, even though you can have the argument about, like, does the United States, did the United States win, you know, war or whatever. But
Yeah.
you get what I'm trying to say. Does that question make sense?
It does. Thank you for explaining it to my feeble brain this evening. I would say that the yeah, you could still be the world's police without being involved in everything. It's your presence that can change things, but your presence comes with strength. Like, your power comes with your ability to be strong. And I think the US would have to get very black and white with foreign policy and get rid of a lot of the gray. So you'd pretty much have to be like, this is a line. Here is the response if the line is crossed. We're telling you up front, don't cross the line. And then when they do cross the line, you do the response.
Yeah.
And you just tell the whole international community what the line and response is. So, like, before Russia ever invaded Ukraine, you would just be like, if one Russian soldier or one Russian aircraft, military-wise, or one Russian bullet or artillery shell or missile or anything enters the sovereign country of Ukraine, we will do this.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it happened, you just do it. Like, you just tell them, I'm going to sink one of your destroyers.
Red lines matter.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to, I mean, you just tell them straight what it's going to be. Your Kremlin is going to be gone if you invade Ukraine. Now, I'm going to tell you when you can all evacuate, but I'm flattening your Kremlin. Your historic building will be gone. Like,
Yeah.
like, and we will cease to exist.
So you think that, like, so do you think then that just funding another proxy war is not actually, I mean, I don't think it's doing us any good. I'll say that up front. And this is like a question for argument's sake, right?
We're at the point where you can't end it now. You're too committed.
For sure.
This one you have to see through. You have to see it until either Ukraine.
Then doesn't the argument then become that you have to see it through to the fullest measure?
I think there needs to be a clear line set soon, and then you respond to that line appropriately.
Because I think it's reaching the point where it's like shit or get off the pot time. Either stop funding Ukraine, and whatever happens, or the other thing. So obviously, I don't want the other such, right?
So the line part to me for that specific conflict is for Russia only. Mm-hmm. I would say where we currently are at, you would have to fund Ukraine indefinitely until either Ukraine quits or cease to exist. Like, I'm sorry, you can't not do that. But you tell Russia there's a line. Like, and the line is like, if your troops push past this specific point or whatever, or you don't end the war, like, you gained your ground, cool. You got Crimea, you got some other places here, but if you don't, like, if you keep this going on for like another year, then here's the line, and you have to enforce the line. So you can set the actual let's leave, like, this is when it ends, but you still have to fund until it ends.
I definitely think there should be, before we go to war, if anything, whether it's by proxy or boots on the ground, that, and this is hard to do, right? That there should be a defined objective for this war, right? This is what we're trying to do. And once that objective is either met or it's realized that it's impossible to meet, it should be over.
Yeah. I agree.
All right, let's take a break real quick and we'll come back.
Gee.
And we're back. That was a long break. I really had to pee.
Yeah, it felt like only 5 minutes to me.
Yeah, for real. It was pretty quick. So we left off.
For listeners, it's going to feel like zero time.
Zero
Just give
time.
you, here's a break. Break's over.
That's right. Break is over now. Exactly. Back to the show, bitches. So we left off with, would you or would you not say there's an unreconcilable dichotomy in the statement, we can't be the world's police? And you were given it a good answer, but let's kind of reattack what you were talking about. And basically, is it one of those things where, like, if you're not the world's police, then somebody else is going to fill that void, and you have to find a way to balance the force you use, the big stick that you carry, right? Because deterrence requires strength and presence, right? So how do you not be the world's police but also be the world's power? Because there's always going to be somebody trying to be the world's power. I don't think or a bipolar or multipolar world is a sustainable way with human beings in mind. Personally.
I don't think it's possible at all for the world power to not be the world's police. Because you can't be, let's just say hypothetically, China was the world power. Okay? They're the ones in charge of everything. How are they able to maintain that power if they can't project their
power?
Not power.
Influence?
Influence, yes. How can they continue to be the power if they can't project the influence? The reason why the United States is still, to this day, the global power as of right now, is because we have the ability to project it anywhere, like at any time within like hours. So, and every nation on this planet knows that. They know that the U.S. could just show up at their doorstep within hours. But every other, like, all the nations know currently, like, China can't do that, Russia can't do that. They're the two big ones that probably even compare to that.
China is ramping up in a bigger way than when we did in World War II. It's crazy.
It's true, yes. I still think China is a long way off from being able to project how we are.
I do too.
Because we've been, I think there's like 270 something forward operating like locations for the U.S. That includes like bases and like small camps and stuff. But there's not
a mass places.
Yeah, and they're just everywhere, all across the world. But there's not a single other country's base in the U.S. like that. I mean, that's kind of saying something. I mean, we don't have a U.S. base in China. You could argue that China has like police headquarters in the U.S. That's like a base,
which is wild to me. This shit should not be here.
But I don't think you can be the global power and not be the global police force. Because I
agree with that.
Doesn't make sense.
I agree with that, and which is why I asked the question, because everybody's sick of foreign policy spending on behalf of Ukraine or sending money to Israel, right?
You just approved like what, 92 billion or something?
Yep. Again, and it had the TikTok thing wrapped up in it. But my question is like, obviously, this 92 billion or 95 billion or whatever it was could be put to much better use here in the United States, and our infrastructure and people need it. But it takes me off just as much as it does the next person. But at the same time, I question whether or not we have to have a dog in the fight or not. Otherwise, we're leaving that power void. And could we sit back and build up strength and repair and all this stuff for a time? I think we could. I don't think Russia is as big of a deal as people make them out to be. The fact that they wound up in a trench warfare scenario in Ukraine, and the United States is much to credit for that, right? But I also don't think China is ready for something on that scale either. They couldn't handle a two-front war, that's for sure.
No.
I mean, they constantly fire their leadership. They found a bunch of water in missiles, right? They ain't going anywhere. It's the exact opposite of a propellant, unless you're talking about a fucking water rocket. That shit ain't going across the ocean.
Yeah.
So,
China could mess up as much of the U.S. assets in the Pacific as they wanted, but until you actually like start messing with the U.S. like mainland, the U.S. won't ever get out of the fight. And like China can't do that. China could have millions of soldiers. If they can't get them over the ocean, then what's the point of having your millions of soldiers?
That's where they come in with the cyber thing, right?
Yeah.
And we've talked about that before, but
Yeah, they could like
my
knock down
question,
power grids and dams, all that sort of stuff. I get
Mhm.
that, but we could very easily just do it right back to them. So it's kind of like
yeah, oh yeah,
mutually assured destruction, just blowing nukes in a
in a
way.
way,
But
yeah.
but I think the U.S. needs to get to a point of strength to where we don't have to actually be so physically involved. We don't have to be so kinetic with being the world police. We
Mhm.
can. It's like a really good like father in a way. It's like my dad never once like hit me. Never got spanked. Never physically touched in like in an aggressive way. Get hugs and stuff. I've never
Yeah,
like had anything bad in that way from my
unusual
dad.
things, you know.
But I knew by the way he stood, or the way he talked, or the way he looked at me, that if I continued on that path that I was
Right,
currently on, that was
consequences.
that was coming, and it was real. And I had never even experienced it, but I knew it was real. So
Yeah.
the U.S. needs to get back to that. And I think we were at that in time-wise, relatively short while ago. Like I would argue the early 2000s and 90s, we were pretty good at being able to say, hey, no, you can't do that, enemy nation or
That was
crazy
definitely getting better
country.
under Trump too, though.
Yeah. Because a lot of people like to give Obama like a lot of like flack and stuff, but Obama used the most drone strikes ever
Bro,
by
just drone
like
drive-bys all the time.
by
Just
like
fucking must, dude.
thousands more than
I
like
know,
his
not even close.
predecessor, and like and by who's replaced him since then. Like it's just insane. But
Well, what's crazy, if we could say this about Obama too, is like he did all that, and then his policies about the border were way more secure than
yeah,
Biden, and people don't
yeah,
even realize that.
yeah.
And we talked about that with Vince
They were way
Vargas, but
more
like,
secure than under President
mhm,
Trump.
yeah,
A, a,
definitely
a
a
lot
lot more
of
strict.
a
He
lot of
undid a
like
lot of what Obama did.
a lot of like the photos of like those encampments or whatever
Yeah,
that
yeah,
were like, look what's happening at the border. Those photos were actually taken under the Obama administration's time,
yeah,
and they were just
yeah.
being like brought up during Trump's presidency. And Trump's like, that's not even like
That's from
that wasn't
2014.
me. That wasn't me.
Right,
I was
right.
whatever. That's a whole other story. But one thing I will say about Obama is, um, if you messed with the U.S. while Obama was president, there was a drone strike, like
It's a
imminent.
hellfire coming,
Yeah,
dog.
I don't know if people know this, but there was like a key, like, Al Qaeda leader whose like nephew was getting married to someone, and it was like the best time to like eliminate this one Al Qaeda leader. And
Hmm.
When Obama was president, he mandated that every drone strike had to be approved by him. He
Hmm.
didn't delegate it to anyone else. So
Mm.
he literally thousands of drone strikes during his presidency. So he was probably getting like a phone call once or twice a week his
At least
entire presidency, where they're
on
like,
average.
"Hey man, here's what we got. What you think?"
Yeah.
You know?
Here's the grid square in Yemen. Can we turn it into a parking lot?
Yeah. Do you
Full
want to do?
send.
Yeah. Go ahead. But
Yeah.
um, he drone striked a wedding to kill one dude and killed the groom, the bride, like almost like majority of both families. It was like hundreds of people dead, most of them innocent, to take out one dude. And
Yeah.
that one dude, I don't know how I guess severe or bad him still being alive would have caused with the atrocities that he was a
Never know.
part of, right? we won't know because we're not part of that high echelon of intelligence. But um, during that time, people knew that if you mess with the U.S., doesn't matter if you're at a wedding, doesn't matter if you were at a park, didn't matter where you were at.
If you're in Islamabad, Pakistan,
Yeah,
right?
if the country you were in ended with Stan or An, there was a or Ak, there was a
Yeah.
there was a
Yeah.
there was a
Yeah.
miss coming.
Unless you're in Syria, right? No
Yeah,
red lines in Syria.
yes.
Yeah.
But under Trump that happened too. Like when we took out the Suma, what's his name?
Soleimani. Yeah,
Yeah,
the Iranian general or whatever.
yeah. Uh, that was one of those things, and what's funny is Trump got a lot of flack for it, but Obama never got flack for his drone strikes. And it's
Dude,
just
then he dropped the fucking set on Twitter after
yeah.
that. Just fucking American flag post.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's it, dude.
But
Come correct.
I feel like if we could go back in time and put a different president, put Bush in, put Obama in, even put Clinton in during the Russian ramp up of their exercise on the Ukrainian border and them saying it's not an invasion and blah blah blah.
This time?
I feel like it would have been a lot different. Even like I bet Obama would have been like, "Oh, it's an exercise, cool. Well, I'm gonna put an exercise right on the other side of that line." Like I bet that would have been something that Obama would have done, or
I
Trump
could
would
see
have
some
done.
president do that, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
okay. Well, Third
yeah,
Special Forces is there now.
yeah, exactly. Oh, you're just doing this giant exercise right on the border? Cool. Well, we're gonna do a giant exercise right on the other side, and we're gonna wave at
Right,
you.
right,
But
right.
that, yes, it would have cost a lot of money, but it would have been way cheaper than how much we're currently spending.
Right.
Would it have bolstered and maybe like made the region a little crazy for a little while? And one false bullet going the wrong way or whatever could have just annihilated the whole section? Yeah,
Right.
but
Russia wouldn't have been, I agree with you. And this is a total hypothetical situation, but I don't think they would have gone in.
yeah, no, they wouldn't. They've been too afraid to accidentally kill an American, and then all hell would have broke loose.
Yeah, start the staring contest and then don't
Yeah.
blink.
And you'd already, it would just become like the Eastern European DMZ. And it's like, we've already had that. There was the
Yeah,
Berlin Wall
literally.
for a long
Yep.
time, and we just stared at each other for a long time.
Showing up to you, girl.
Yeah. Capitalism won. So,
yeah. There were people fleeing east into West Germany, not the other way around.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's like how there's no one fleeing the U.S. currently, but everyone's trying to get in.
For sure. Yeah, no, I mean, just to me, it's like, it's one of these things where it's like, yeah, I'm frustrated with the amount of money we spend on foreign wars, but at the same time, it's like, where's the balance in maintaining the power that we have all enjoyed? You know, and I get it, man. The United States has done a lot of fucked up bad shit and killed a lot of people. You just talked about it, you know, but what country hasn't? And it's not an excuse, right? You can come at me all you want in the fucking comments or whatever, but like, if you're an American, the life you enjoy, especially you at Columbia or NYU or wherever the fuck you are, you know, barricading yourself in a fucking building and begging for quote unquote humanitarian aid. Dude, I just want to say this about that real quick. That chicken, that dude standing there at the microphone talking about wanting food and water and shit like that, when you can just fucking walk out of that building. And then she had the fucking nerve to call it humanitarian aid. Like, the people in that sort of group use words all the time that don't accurately define what it is they're asking for. Like, have you actually seen what humanitarian aid looks like? You're asking to get fucking McDonald's Uber Eats in. Like, that's not humanitarian aid. You're not refugees. You can fucking leave. You didn't have to be there in the first place. Like, I've seen what humanitarian aid fucking looks like. And you saying things like that, it just diminishes what it actually means to somebody in a real third world country who gets humanitarian aid and that's all they fucking have. While you're at an Ivy League school, putting yourself in a fucking position. We just were joking about toddlers. It's exactly what a toddler would fucking do.
I saw someone explain like the current situation of the colleges, and they said this. It says, imagine if you were in McDonald's and wanted to eat, but found out the McDonald's supports a cause you disagree with. Instead of taking your money elsewhere, you decide to call all your friends and buddies to come fill up this McDonald's until they change what they believe in while still demanding to make you a Big Mac.
That's it, dude. Exactly.
It's like,
you got the ingredients, bitch. Make me a Whopper.
yeah, it's like, all right. You
Yeah.
could go somewhere else.
That's it, man. Yeah, she fucking was like, well, we're students here. You have to provide food for us. Wow.
I don't think that was in the student handbook.
Well, like, dude, if you're on meal card, like, yeah, you're paying for fucking food.
Yeah, but like you said,
dude,
no one is like forcing you to stay there.
no,
and
exactly.
And no one was like forcing you at the time, at least. No one was forcing you to leave there. So like,
Yeah.
you could have just been like, "Hey, save my seat" to your buddy. What do you want?
Mhm.
And you could have just
Right.
left, got what you needed, and then came right back.
Well, the police were grabbing them like as they left the building, according to them, right? But at the same time, like, this isn't the Branch Davidians, right? The
Yeah.
FBI is not going to burn the building down to get you out,
The
you know,
ATF.
or just fucking kill you.
What's
Yeah,
this one?
FBI, ATF, all of them.
But
Same people at Ruby Ridge.
Yeah, but what's funny about it is I saw a video on YouTube the other day about this stuff, and there was like the pro-Palestinian and then like the pro-Israel people at one college. I can't remember which one it was, and the cops just got in the middle of them because they didn't want them to mingle, because they didn't want like them to tempers flare,
start fighting or something.
It was funny is the cops like went in between them and made like a set line, and the officers were like, "Hey, just don't cross, please. Like, you can do whatever you want on the other side, just don't cross." Okay. And the pro-Israel side, very calm. They continued to protest how they wanted. They were protesting the protest, right? All type of stuff. The Palestinian side got mad that they were now being divided and just started throwing stuff at the cops, throwing things over to the other side. One like person came up and just started yelling at a cop in his face, and when the cop tried to walk away, he pushed the cop, and still they didn't arrest this guy. And it's like, you're getting away with so much, and you don't realize that the opposing side is also protesting peacefully and stuff. Like, I don't understand why you think you have to go to violence for your cause. It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, especially when you're protesting in favor of a terrorist group.
Yeah.
Right. And here's the thing, man. Like, the United States has a history of rebellion, and I'm all for protest, and I don't agree with the people that are protesting in favor of Palestine and Hamas, right, at all, because they're a terrorist group. Hamas is a terrorist group. So yes, it's good to see people exercising their rights and fucking protesting and being rebellious, but at the same time, if you're locking yourself in a building or you're not peacefully protesting, it's not the way to do it. There are other things going on in our country that I would be a lot more, I guess, forgivable on if you were protesting in a different way about, right? Like maybe the corporatocracy in our country that keeps us all fucking broke. You want to go fucking protest that shit? Go for it, dude. Get up in their faces. Like, I don't care, right? Like, but just like taking a stand. And the crazy thing is that none of these people in fucking 3 months or 6 months or a year or 2 years are going to have done anything of consequence to make the situation better. It's just a fucking notch in their I'm a victim and virtue signaling belt. That's all it is. And they're so fucking void of a sense of purpose that they're clinging to the first thing that gives them an emotional response to an issue, right? And it is an issue. I'll give them that. But that's it. This isn't real. This is just fucking manufactured.
They currently live in a society where they don't have actual turmoil or they don't have why is my brain blanking? They don't have a challenge in their life. They don't have nothing is giving them an actual sense of pride or purpose. Like nothing in their life is currently doing it. So they grab onto these international or like spotlighted things because they think this is now going to
Perceived
give me a
victimhood.
purpose. I'm going to get my good job, my pat on the
Right.
back, my you were a part of history, blah blah blah. But what's funny, and it'll be interesting to see, is in a couple months, probably, at least within the next year, no one's going to remember these protests. It's going to like they didn't even matter. And a lot of these school like directors and stuff are still like putting their foot down and being like, yeah, no, you can protest all you want, but we're not changing anything. You can go somewhere else.
Yeah,
And I,
Columbia literally asked the police to have those people removed from the building.
yeah, yeah. So it's funny because they think they're gonna somehow change it all today, or it's gonna, if we get the college to no longer support this thing, then yeah, I'll continue to go to school here. It's like,
Meanwhile, Jewish donors who donate millions of dollars to
yeah,
your university are no longer doing it. Congratulations.
yep.
And you know what, dude? They
Just
get
made
what
your
they
school
fucking
tuition
deserve.
higher. Good job.
Yep, they get what they fucking deserve, dude.
Yeah.
These fucking Ivy League schools, all they've done is bred these fucking morons for years thinking this way. And here it is, dude. The fucking liberal fucking minded idiots that they fucking bred, literally getting kicked in the fucking ass by these fucking morons.
Yep.
So I'm here for it, dude. You want to be fucking stupid? It's just, it's funny too, is really all these kids will fucking sit there and probably tell you too that like they're against capitalism. Meanwhile, they all probably spent the same $15 to buy from the keffiyeh, factory or whatever the fuck is making all these fucking keffiyehs that are just going to be sitting somewhere in their fucking apartment or miserable dorm room 6 months from now,
Or in a
collecting
landfill,
dust.
killing the environment.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, let's all buy this. Oh, this is a mark of our struggle. Like, you have no fucking idea, dude. Yeah.
It's
Anyway, but yeah, the point of the question is like having to find that balance and how I don't think there is a way to reconcile the dichotomy that exists in wanting to not be involved, but also wanting to be the world's power, because it comes with action. Maybe not every time, right?
Yeah.
But
You
you
have
need to
to
be
set-
afraid, like you said. You have to
Yeah.
have a healthy respect for the consequences if you do decide to act up.
Yeah.
And I think that there is enough time to sort of spend that money and to fix problems in the United States, and we absolutely need to. But here's the thing too: you got to stop being so afraid of the fucking press, right? Just because someone's going to write some fucking stupid article and say the U.S. is falling behind or Russia this or China that, like, who fucking cares, dude? Sit in the fucking back, go to work, fix problems, and come back even better than before is kind of my philosophy on that. Like, don't fucking worry about what everybody's going to say about it. But you have to be able to exercise that power. I think everybody's really frustrated with the amount of money we spend in Ukraine and Israel because we know that there's problems here in the U.S. that we need to fix. And we went from one 20-year war right into another after, Mr. Biden got in front of the fucking microphone and said, we're not doing this again. And then sure enough, right, Putin did what he did. And then we're right back here spending fucking buku bucks just to do this all over again.
Yep.
And it's why I think I said earlier that if we're going to go to war in the future, we need to have a defined goal. And once that goal is either met or determined to be unattainable, it should be over.
We also need to, wars need to be decided by like Congress. They need to be decided by more than just a couple generals or just the president or anything like that. I understand the president has like emergency powers to send troops wherever and all. We talked about this in previous videos, but like,
yeah, we have.
And I know that Congress and the Senate, they're passing these metric tons of money for Ukraine and Israel right now, and cool, that's the way it should be done. They passed it, we voted them in, it's happening, got it. But any future conflicts or wars or anything like that needs to be very well thought out. Like you said, needs to have a goal that needs to be met. Something needs to be obtainable and set before you decide to start sending American
This is what we're
lives.
doing. If it gets to the point where we can't actualize that goal, then that's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And obviously, like, things can change, I guess, but there needs to be something. As much as you can predict whatever is going to happen in the goal, because obviously we all know war is super unpredictable. But
Yeah.
I'll say this, man. I don't think we owe Ukraine a fucking thing. And I think that it is really sad how quickly we've all forgotten about a lot of the things that have gone on in Ukraine over the past 100 years, right?
Yeah.
Not to get too historical and maybe bring up things that don't have much to do with what we're talking about, but like, you know, anti-Semitism is 110% on the rise. There is a fuckload of anti-Semitism in Ukraine, historically, presently, right? If you don't know what a pogrom is, I implore you to Google the word POGROM and look up Ukrainian pogroms, right? And I'm not saying that the sins of the past should come back to haunt people in the future, but the point I'm making is this isn't an innocent country there that, is our brothers and sisters in arms for any sort of reason whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's just not. And fucking 20 years ago, the CIA helped them rig an election and fucked over, a lot of the other things that they were doing democratically the way that it should be done. So there's a lot more going on.
Isn't it weird that every country the CIA tries to mingle in for the betterment of like national security and the US 15, 20 years later tends to blow up in our face?
Yeah. Almost like you can't fucking walk in with a cookie cutter and just stamp it on the table and say democracy.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Like that's not how that works. Yeah. Especially when your means and method are absolutely undemocratic.
The rebels you're funding today are going to be the terrorists you fight tomorrow.
Dude, it's like that fucking quote, man. One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter.
Yep. I think we'll end this question after I say this. Let's hear something more, Brandon. But what's interesting about Ukraine specifically is that for the last like 15, 20 years, the U.S. and majority of the UN has been like, hey, Russia's right there. And if you want actual protection, you got to join the UN. Here's how you do it. And Ukraine's been kicking the can. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And for whatever reason they had, if it was Russia tampering with stuff, whatever it is. But I think it's very interesting that they had no desire and no haste to join the UN until Russia's in their country. And at that point, it's too late. You can't join the UN now.
Yeah, and then you have Kamala Harris's dumbass going up on fucking stage at like the NATO Security Council meeting and telling Zelensky, "We want you to join NATO."
I can't say UN. I meant NATO.
I know what you meant. Yeah.
For all listeners, I apologize.
Yes. No, you're good, bro. But that's what she says, right?
Yeah.
Like, tell me what the fucking point of saying that is, other than just to start shit. Anyway, we've soapboxed on this one enough.
Like I said, you can't join NATO now because Russia's in your country. And if you join, it was just funny. I think they had like a push to like be voted in or something. I was like, you can't vote Ukraine in now because Russia's in their country, and the second that vote passes, NATO has to go
Article
to war.
5.
All of us have to go to war with Russia. Are you not
so what does that
thinking?
mean? You need to concede the areas of the Donbass and the other, that you say these are Russia now, and this new line is what Ukraine is, and now Ukraine is in NATO, which is still dumb as fuck.
Yeah.
So anyway, I mean, God, dude. We've talked about this before, I mean, Ukraine used to be a nuclear country, and then Bill Clinton got them to give up their fucking nukes. There's all kinds of history here, man. Yep. But people forget about that. Even forgot about what happened in 2014 real fast. So anyway, I think it's your question now, Big Dog.
It is, and we're gonna kind of stick with the theme of politics a little bit.
I like it.
So it is official: Trump versus Biden, 2024.
Yeah, sorry.
How do you think it will play out? Who do you think's going to win? Who do you think will, by how much? And why? And then also, whoever you think does win, actually for both of them, if either one wins, what does their next 100 days in office look like?
Great question. Yeah, so I think I think a lot of people on both sides are very fed up with Joe Biden, and they're very fed up with the people that are actually running the country in Joe Biden's name, because I don't think that he's involved in much. He's just too fucking old, and it is what it is. I think a lot of people are really fed up with that. I also know that a lot of people are very fed up with Donald Trump too.
Yeah.
And there's
It's
plenty
too
of valid
polarized.
reasons for that. You know what I
Pulverizing,
mean?
I guess. Pulverizing.
Polarizing? Yeah, he
Polarizing.
is yeah, not pulverizing.
He does pulverize.
And I don't like everything about Donald Trump either.
Yeah.
Like I don't like his stance on red flag laws. Just start there. You know, but I do think, given our two options, I'd rather see him than former years of Joseph R. Biden. And I think a lot of people feel that way too. I think that everything going on with Trump in the courts is really having the exact opposite effect that the Democrats hope it would. It almost feels like they're not even trying to the level that you think they would, and I think it's because they know that Joe Biden is so fucking just cheeks dog water weekend at Bernie's, and I think they know that. And there's really no one in the Democratic or the left who they could prop up and promote as, like, I think they were sick of Gavin Newsom too and his bullshit. But anyway, I think Trump will win if it's not truly rigged. And I think it will be a lot closer than people realize. I don't think it's going to be a fucking landslide. I think it'll be closer than people realize, because people are. And I also think that RFK is going to take a lot of votes away from people that are sitting on the fence about Joe Biden and Donald Trump. I do worry about a second Trump presidency, right, as well, because I feel like he's going to be more apt to put a lot more yes men around him, because the guy had a big cult following, and I think that's a good word to use, in 2016, and then all 4 years he was in the office. And all that this last 4 years has done is really build and bolster that cult following, and people see him more as like a fucking godlike figure, I think, than they did before. It's like one of those things, like when Kurt Cobain killed himself in Nirvana was escalated immediately to rock legend status, and Trump losing the election in 2020 was the like equivalent of that, I guess. So that worries me. All these people that could be yes men around him, but I think a lot of it will boil down to who he picks as VP as well. For a while there,
I don't even know who he would choose. I don't even know, like, what would be a good pick.
I think he's going to choose Tulsi Gabbard, to be honest.
Really?
I do. I think he is. I think that Vivek would be a really good VP, but I just don't think that he would pick him. Sarah Sanders from Arkansas, I think she would be a good VP, but I also don't think it's her time. I also think she wants to run for president eventually too. But Vivek would just be an amazing VP, because all those guys do is fucking talk, and that dude is a whiz with words. And anybody that fucking tried to come at him about shit or their the presidency about anything, he would just fucking wreck them, So there would be a lot of really good people care about that kind of thing. But I think it'll be Tulsi.
One thing I have noticed about Trump so far in his current campaign, is he has taken almost a step out of the spotlight for his campaign, which is kind of weird because he is the guy. Like, obviously, he's running, he's the dude going for president. His campaign's all for him, duh. But I've noticed that he has kind of taken a step away from the spotlight, and he's kind of just letting the Trump train run itself.
That's exactly what I was saying before. That cult following, he doesn't need an introduction.
Yeah, and he's using the Democrats against them.
Oh yeah,
they're constantly talking about his court proceedings. They're constantly talking about trying to get him off the ballot in certain states. They're like all this stuff, and all of those have been shot down. The court proceedings are just continuing to go and go and go. But it's like they say, bad publicity is good publicity. Like, he's just getting his name out there without having to do much. And I think if Trump does win, I think because his first presidency, he was still very like in front. He was front and center for everything. He would go to
Yep.
a lot of the press conferences himself. He would like everything, and that was most presidents don't do that. Most presidents would come on and just give a speech and then leave it to their person. But he was like answering questions. Like he was doing like he was the man of a million hats, right?
Right.
I think if he does win, he's gonna take I do think he will step back a bit. He will be less very vocal and out there, and I think the reason for that is because he knows that that's what the left is going to feed off of to just ruin and harpen his presidency. And if he steps back a bit but is still successful in everything else, then they'll have nothing against him other than his court proceedings probably going to get pushed forever. And he's not an idiot. And I think he
Definitely not.
understands that that's something that he would need to do to ensure that, the future of the country, future of the nation is safeguarded. And this is the same guy who, whether you like his money schemes or how he manages finances or whatever, he was literally a billionaire and he decided to become president of the United States and give up a lot of his money, his holdings, his livelihood for a $350,000 a year salary, which he never took. He donated all of his salary while he was president. So, that it's just that's what I think. At his first 100 days, you'll answer here in a sec, but his first 100 days to Trump is going to be like a full purge of everything I think Biden has done. It's a purge / reset.
I think a lot of that'll happen too. I do think that notion that's kind of happened a lot in the past couple of presidencies where they just walk in and eradicate everything the last guy did isn't a good thing. I mean, there is stuff that should go away, I think, but it shouldn't just be like day one, fuck all this shit, and then, just start over from a blank slate. But I like what you were saying before, because it's almost the equivalent of when you're fighting somebody bigger than you, and I guess you could say they're bigger than Trump just because they have the media behind them. But when you're fighting somebody bigger than you, you use their weight against them, right? It's one of the things that you are taught to do, and it's basically what he's doing. Your analogy, I think, is a good way to put that. But I agree with you. I think that he will pick Tulsi Gabbard. That's just what I think. I know that she's basically said if he asked, she'd say yes. Kristi Noem, that whole thing with her fucking killing her hunting dog, it's just the dumbest shit ever. I can't believe that anybody would fucking say that. It's not like taking your old dog out in the fucking trees because they've got cancer and you put him down. You know what I mean? Or Old Yeller style, he's got rabies, so you put him down. It's like, oh, this isn't working out as a farm dog, so I'm just gonna go fucking kill this 1-year-old dog. Like, you couldn't find somebody to give it to, like a family. You know what I mean? Like, just the dumbest fucking thing ever, dude. Like, why would you even say that? Anyway, they said that she was rumored, but that didn't happen anymore. That's for fucking sure. But first 100 days, man, I think there will be a lot of focus on Ukraine and Russia and a way to try and wrap that up. I also think it'll go right back into being in fucking China's fucking Kool-Aid as well. And anything that he can do to essentially build that sphere of influence in those areas to put them back under the American thumb, so to speak. That'll be a big focus. I also think that an area that the Biden administration has really failed on, we've already mentioned, is the infrastructure in the United States and our production power. Production power for sure as well. I don't know if you've seen too, there's been a lot of stuff out about building and manufacturing things.
There's a lot of talk. We never see it actually happen. Yeah,
it's quietly coming out. Like, one of the industries is the submarine industry for obvious reasons, but that actually, I've started seeing a lot of really out there and quiet advertisement about it and trying to hire people to build submarines and stuff like that. I think he'll just take a page out of that and start focusing on things that Biden immediately or would fail at and start immediately doing them. But I think that's what it'll look like. look like, and the border for sure too. That'll be something that happens almost immediately. I feel like that's like a day one thing. You might even go there. There'll be something, whether it's if it's not a full shutdown of the border, it'll be something legitimate. Um, this is, you say all that, man. You say it here like it's fucking nothing, but like it's one of those. That's so much to fucking handle. But first 100 days, I think that'll be the focus. I don't even want to venture a guess on what'll actually be accomplished, but I think the border could definitely be accomplished. At least shutting it down within the first 100 days could be accomplished. And then I don't know. I would like to see him. I don't know how you would, but find a lot of these people that are here, and especially the ones that were criminals before they got here, and get rid of them. Because we had enough criminals in this country to begin with. We don't need any more. But I think that's what it'll look like. And personally, I hope he picks Tulsi. I think that'll be a good thing. And that would help him win. If he picks somebody like DeSantis, I think that would hurt him in the long run. It doesn't work.
Similar. It fights. You need a yin yang.
I agree. Yeah. Agree, man. It's like salt water and fresh water meeting. They're both water, but the just difference is fucking they're just mix. You can't make brackish water with no. Anyway, but that's what I think. Yeah, personally.
It's funny with like Biden's Build Back Better plan because like it's praised by so many on the left, but if you actually look into it, the Build Back Better plan was just the MAGA plan, Make America Great Again, with a different title and some tweaks. Which was like hated. It's like that doesn't like they just changed a couple words and now you're happy. Like good job. It's I live in New York State currently, and over here in like the upstate New York, when you drive down I-90, there's like a big sign that says like "Build Back Better" or "Build Back Better" project, blah blah blah. That sign has been up, like it's a project they're gonna do, and like build something there. I can't remember exactly what it is. It's been up like since Biden took office, and I have yet to see anything start. Like it's just a sign saying it's coming. And I'm like, it's been 3 years, my guy.
It's just wasted money to fucking put that out there. That's it. That's all he ever was. It's just cringe now.
Yeah, it's like it's been 3 years, my guy, and this is a state that's very blue, and you can't even get it done in here. How are you gonna get it done anywhere else? So it doesn't.
Yeah,
it's just interesting. But no, I think if Biden wins,
Jesus,
first 100 days will just be nothing.
It'd be more of the same, dude.
Yeah, it's just continue of like mundane day-to-day stuff. But I could see Biden within a year or two of his presidency stepping down. And then Kamala Harris is in. I can see that being a very real possibility. And I think they were planning to do that in this presidency, but then like Ukraine happened, all that type of stuff, and it wasn't the right time for them, like politically. But I still think it's in the cards. It's what they're planning to do.
Yeah, I agree.
Because then it gives Kamala Harris, theoretically, if she wins 2 more times, you could have her in for 10, 11 years. Because her time
I think people hate her guts, too.
Yeah, but like her time stepping up as VP doesn't count as her 8 years as president.
No, I know. Yeah.
So
it's just, dude, that would just be the worst thing ever to have President Kamala. Like, I can't even. Yeah.
Like,
she can't even string a fucking sentence together, dude.
Yeah.
And the one she does is all word salad.
Mm-hmm.
When it's raining outside, we get wet. And that's what rain is. Rain is wet. And wet is what happens when it rains. And that's why we use umbrellas to not get wet when it rains. Like, oh, okay. Like, thank you.
I'm Joe Biden.
Just how she talks. Exactly. Anyway. My turn, right?
You're up.
Let's see. I have 2 left. What is a valid solution to homelessness in the United States?
Hmm.
And by valid, I mean effective.
Just stop people from being homeless. Um, Majority of Americans today live paycheck to paycheck. So most of them are like one bad paycheck away from like not making rent, not paying their mortgage. A lot of people become homeless because they just miss one payment and they have to make the tough decision of, do I eat or do I have a roof over my head? And that's the America we're currently in. That's the world we're currently in. A lot of nations are kind of this way right now. So I would say an effective way to stop homelessness, to prevent it, or to make it not continue to increase, would be to fix the economy. I know that's like a big thing to do, and I'm not very good, or I don't know enough to give you the best way to fix the economy. But if you could get wages to like keep going up, and just kind of get them stagnant, and then get goods to be stagnant, and then get interest rates to come down, um, build like have government push to build a lot more like homes, because I know like that's an issue too. Like in Canada, for example, there's like not enough places for people to live. I know it's not the U.S., but like that's just an example. They don't have enough rentals available for people to even get into them if they can afford them. But for the people who are currently homeless, um, I tend to be against like social programs, but I understand some people just need like a hand. Why don't we have some type of like, I know we have like Section 8 housing or whatever, which is usually like very cheap and stuff, but those tend to be drug ridden, crime ridden. Like they're not like good. But
I should raise a family.
yeah. In the military we have BAH, right? It's an entitlement that you get, and it's based on your zip code. Why can't just the federal government as a whole, instead of maybe spending 92, 95 billion to Ukraine, you could put 92, 95 billion into like,
Subsidizing housing.
yeah, we're going to subsidize housing for like the actual homeless ones who aren't massive criminals in and out of prison.
What criteria would you put on?
They can't be like in and out like massive criminals. You could have been a criminal before, because earlier I talked about how like when you serve your time, you're done. But like if you're just a repeat
Totally
offender,
agree with that.
if you're a repeat offender, no, you don't get this. If
Drugs.
Yeah, you got to pass a drug test. You have to show proof, or like proof of you actively trying to get a job, or proof like you still have a job, you just can't make ends meet. Proof on how you are getting your finances in check, and that can be provided too. Like, why isn't there like a financial counsel like helping these people?
Dude, yeah, financial literacy is a massive thing.
And you could start that in like in high school. There should be classes
Earlier,
teaching people about credit, about debt, about
taxes,
how to save, how you don't need the newest iPhone every single year, how the one from 5 years ago does everything your phone does now. Like, these are things that would eventually lead to people being financially better off to then not have homelessness continue. Yeah, there could be like a subsidy program to where the government's like, hey, we're going to give you what the average rent price is. Just like how we do for unemployment. There should be like a homeless section. And yeah, you can get both. You get unemployment because you don't have a job, and then you can get like the house subsidy for a certain amount of time to help you get on your feet.
So you'd be okay more with your tax dollars going there than HIMARS in Ukraine.
Yeah, 100%. I feel way better if my taxes are helping my fellow Americans than the people that I can't even see, the ones who put themselves in that position on their own. And yeah, people who are homeless, some of them put that position on their own too, because instead of saving money, they wanted the new flat screen TV, and now they can't pay their rent. I get it. There's bad apples in every bunch, but I would argue that a lot of people who are homeless don't like being homeless. They probably want somewhere to actually just be treated like a human being. So yeah.
Those are good answers. I would have said pretty much the same thing.
Yeah. It's a hard thing to fix. There's not a blanket end all be all. You can make that. That's something I think a lot of people don't understand about like politics or like laws or stuff. There's never ever going to be like a thing you put into law or a policy you enact that's going to fix it 100%, because every case will be so different just by person to person to person, and you might be able to help all of them in some way.
Uh-huh.
I don't think you can ever get rid of homelessness entirely.
No, not at all.
There's still people who just like to be. There's people who don't want a house. They want to live in their
Dude, and
car or in a Walmart
we've
parking
met
lot.
them, man. There's people who you can give all the help in the world to, and they won't take it, or
Yeah.
they find a way to squander it somehow. It's
Yeah.
just human beings. But yeah,
But I think too, you could. I think there's a lot of like a lot of people tend to see like homeless people as non-humans in a way, like they're not like seen on your equal. And I see this a lot in like um typically it's like cities, right, where they don't want the dude sleeping in his car in the Walmart parking lot, right? So like the cop has to come by and be like, hey, you can't be here, you gotta go. I know you have to enforce that to some extent, or else all of a sudden you'll get homeless encampments in random locations, and then none of them leave. But like, if a person's just down on their luck, like, if they're not breaking like any actual laws, if it's a victimless crime, like maybe just give them a pass, right? I saw there's a video today before I went to work that my wife was watching, and it was these two Japanese tourists, and two Japanese girls. They were touring the United States, and they were driving. They were going 80 in a 55, so 80 miles an hour at 55. The cops turn on their lights to pull them over. Obviously, them not being from the United States, they kind of freaked out and they kept driving a little bit longer. They weren't evading the cops. They were just driving a little further down the road and then eventually pulled over. The cops got out and immediately took it to 100. They thought that they were like trying to evade or run away from the cops. They're fleeing, right? And that they were going so fast that they must be a criminal. These cops have their guns drawn. These two Japanese women, and these Japanese women aren't fluent in English. They know enough to like communicate.
yeah.
But when you're in a new country and you have the cops of that country pointing guns at you, and you don't know what's going on, you're not speaking anymore. You're speaking Japanese.
No, fight or flight or freeze.
Yeah. So this whole thing goes down. Eventually, the cops learn that you're Japanese. You're here on English. Vacation. You don't speak very good English. Got it. You have all the right documents. This was a rental car, all that type of stuff. The driver even tried to explain, I just forgot that the speedometer was miles per hour and not kilometers, because 55 miles per hour is 80 kilometers. So in her mind, she saw the 55 mph sign and thought, oh, that's 80 kilometers. And went 80 thinking that her speedometer was in kilometers because that's what she's used to. It was just a mistake. Fair mistake. Fair. What pissed me off in this video, and this is where I think, like, you can be a human.
With the cops?
Yes. You can be a human, and you can just give someone a break when there's actually, like, no crime happening, that they're actually genuine. And you can tell if people are genuine.
Yeah.
These cops arrested her. They arrested her for evading the police and I can't, what's it called, it's reckless driving, because she was going more than because she was going more than 20 miles per hour with the speed limit. They arrested her.
I hope they hire a lawyer.
Oh yeah. I don't know what the outcome eventually was or whatever, but like, having lived in Japan, I know you have too. Japanese cops, they have their lights on all the time. When they patrol, their lights are on. Okay? Yeah. So if Japanese cops are going to pull you over, they say it on a loudspeaker. Yeah. You, in the white car, I am pulling you over. Please pull over to the side of the road. And you go, that's me. And you pull over. In America, we don't do that. We turn our lights and sirens on when we're actually responding to something. and you hardly ever announce who we're pulling over. We just assume
Well,
everyone's going to move over, and then we'll get behind the person who we're stopping.
and one of the things too, I'll say this, like I had to learn when I was a cop in Germany, is that the typical American siren wail, they don't use that in Europe. They use the high-low.
Yeah.
Be-doo,
Same in
be-doo.
Japan.
Yeah, and the wail doesn't register in the European brain. So
Yeah.
it's like one of those things where when you're in phase one, they teach you like, hey, listen, this isn't the US and it's not on base. If you're using lights and sirens, it's not a fucking everything is a green light or there's no such thing as stop signs, because you will T-bone somebody or somebody will T-bone you
Because
because they don't get out of the way.
They don't understand.
They won't realize it. Exactly. And that happens a lot. And I see it's like, okay, my lights and sirens were on, and they just wouldn't get out of the way. And so it's just like one of those things. It's just different, and cultures are different. And as a cop, you dictate the situation based on how you show up. And if you show up and it needs to go to 100, like then it will eventually, right?
And I think these cops arrested this Japanese girl because they were embarrassed that they started at 100, and it was actually like a one response like needed.
So like basically we've gone too far, and now we need to fucking keep up with the shenanigans.
Because that officer has a supervisor. He's gonna have to answer to why'd you
draw down on these two fucking 5'2" Japanese chicks?
Why'd you call 2 other patrols over to chase this car? Why did you draw your guns on them? Why did you make this huge scene on the side of the road?
Didn't look stupid.
And then you're gonna let him go? Like, that's what's in his mind.
Yeah.
He's thinking his supervisor's gonna destroy him.
Is this body cam footage, or was this like cam footage from inside the car?
Body cam and cam footage from the car.
So you're being recorded too.
Yeah. So he knows he has to like he's either damned if you do, damned if you don't, but like you can be a human. If I was in this situation, even if I had went to 100, right? Because that officer could have just came off a scene that was at 100. You know what I mean? And that's something that people don't realize is a cop can just had a 100 incident, and he's now pulling you over for going 5 over. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, I don't know
you leave a completed suicide. Now you're routine. Next thing, traffic stop. Yeah.
If I was the officer, it's funny when I was watching it as it was going on. I was like, "Oh yeah, there's a misunderstanding. I would just let him go." And then the cop like escalated further. And I was like, "What are you doing?" Like, I was like, "What the heck are you doing?"
Your goal the whole time should be to de-escalate the situation.
Restore the peace. Was peace restored?
Peace officer. Yeah.
Get out of here. But I know it's a long tangent. What I'm getting at is like, if you're more human to people, treat them like humans, then I think things will be better. And when it comes like homelessness, just respect them. There's another thing I saw where this was on Reddit, and this
front page of the internet.
This manager hired this new employee, and he noticed this new employee though was like really sluggish and slow at work, and so his manager, like the one above that manager, was like, fire him. He's not productive. Get rid of him.
Shit.
He's only been there for like 2 weeks. He's like, just get rid of him. And the manager's like, well, why is he like this way? His resume didn't wouldn't make sense to this. He was on time. He's never late. Like, this doesn't make any sense. So the manager just asked him, hey man, is everything all right? You seem to be pretty like slow and sluggish. Like, you're not here. Like, what's going on? And the guy told him that he was homeless, that he got this job to try to get back on his feet. And he's currently living in his car, but he can only sleep like an hour or two because the cops keep finding him in these random parking lots, waking him up and making him leave.
Wow. So
he can't sleep. Can't get a good night's sleep. So the manager was like, look, babe, we have a parking lot. We own the property. So I'll tell you what, you can sleep on our property all you want. We don't care. And we're not going to call the cops. You can park in the back, sleep in your car. And actually, you can sleep in the office. Sound good? Cool. So he let this guy sleep in the office. 2 months later, Guy's back on his feet, good to go, saved enough money to get an apartment, has an apartment. If you had fired him, he would have been on the street struggling,
Right.
would have never. Just needed a hand.
Find out about your people.
He needed someone to treat him with humility and just give him a hand. Once he got the hand, he was good.
Yeah.
He didn't need anything else happening. Just needed a little bit of assistance and he was good.
Right. No, good point. That's a good way to put that. Plenty of people, and I always say this too, man. It's like when you would see somebody at work get in trouble. It's like, bro, the only difference between you and them is they got caught and you did it, right? Yep. And it's the same thing, dude. We're all a breath away from being on the fucking street. We're all a breath away from having something tragic happen to us. 100%. And there are those fucking shithies out there who don't want help because they just they can't get right for whatever fucking reason. You know, we're all humans. We all have our own fucked up shit. So people just can't get out of it. But like, plenty of people are sitting there like that. They just need that fucking stepping stone to get to the next level and start making it right. Yeah. No, that's a good way to put it, man.
I had an airman who, when I was a Fairchild, who kept showing up like late to guard mount. Or like late to arming up. He'd usually come in right when cars about to start, right? But you know, you gotta be like 15, 20 minutes before. And pulling to the side, I was like, look, man, you have like one task in the morning. And it's just get here on time.
Wake up, shit, shower, shave, show up.
Get here, right? You know what time you have to be here. It doesn't change. It's not like the schedule doesn't change. It's the same days every week. Like it's not you know what it is. Okay. So what's the problem? Are you staying up too late? Are you like?
Oh, I got a good story after this.
Are you not taking care of yourself? Like what's going on? And he just told me, he's like, I struggle with sleeping at night. I was like, okay, like really? Like you just, because he was on days. I was like, you just struggle with sleeping at night. So if I swap your schedule and I put you on nights, can you sleep during the day? Yeah, probably, Sergeant. All right, cool. After today, stay after work. We're going to go talk to ops, and we're going to see if maybe someone wants to switch. Right? So he went and talked.
Fair solution.
There was a married airman on nights who would love to be on days because he wants to have normal wake time with his wife.
There you go.
They had the same certs. They were both senior airmen. Swapped them. That kid was never late again.
Yeah.
You just had to figure out what the problem was. It's not always that they're a shitbag. There can actually be a problem. They could just be a shitbag. But
yeah,
you have to, if you don't ask and you don't show humility, how are you gonna know?
Yeah, you're gonna figure it out one way or the other. Either you're gonna find a viable solution, or you're gonna realize, man, this kid just can't get right, and it is what it is, and you gotta deal with it accordingly. Either way,
corrective actions to try to get him right.
Exactly.
If they can't get right after those actions, then they get out.
Dude, right? So we had, when I was at Malmstrom, there was an airman on my flight who just couldn't show up on time, was always late. And me and the tech sergeant, who was my supervisor, this is when I was a staff sergeant, pulled him aside because technically he was my troop, you know what I mean? But like he was my tech sergeant's grand troop, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's like, yo, what's up? What's up with this? Like, why can't you fucking be here on time? And he's like, I don't know. Like, I set multiple alarms. I don't wake up, yada, 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 you know? And like, it's one of those things where like, you got to get up at fucking 3:30 in the morning, right? Because you got to pick up a fucking vehicle and then you got to drive it over to the armory and then you got to arm up, etc. Anyway, you know how it is. So we were like, okay, run us through, like, what do you do when you get home from work,
what time
right?
are you going to bed?
Like, well, it's 12-hour shifts, right? 12-hour shifts, quote 14. Unquote, right? So six to six, you know. And like, what do you do when you get home? Like, what does it look like for you? And he's like, well, I'll go home. He's like, I'll change into gym clothes and I'll go for a run and then I'll eat dinner. And we're like, okay, like what time is it now? Like in your routine. Yeah. He's like, you know, maybe like 8:30. Like, okay, well, and then what do? You go to bed? He's like, no, then I take pre-workout and then I go to the gym and lift. And we're like, what the fuck? What time are you getting to the gym after you take your pre-workout? He's like 9:30.
Yeah.
We're like, so you're hopped up
10
on
to
fucking
like noon,
10 to midnight. Yeah. And we're like, bro, so you're all hopped up on Mountain Dew, right? At fucking 10 p.m. and then you're lifting till midnight and then you have to get up in 3 hours. And he's like, yeah. Dude, we literally banned this kid from the fucking gym past like 9 p.m. We're like, you are
I
not
would
allowed to go to the fucking
I
gym
would make him
after
reverse
9.
it. I was like, you can't work out after work anymore. You can work out before work. You can't work out after work.
Well, I'm not gonna tell anybody they can't work out, but I'm gonna tell you, you cannot take fucking C4 at 9:30 or whatever the fuck you were taking. 1 MR, no explode, whatever the fuck he was on at the time. Anyway, that
When I
was
was
we couldn't believe that shit when he
yeah,
said that. It was like, you're taking pre-workout at 9:30 at night? What the fuck?
when I was at Cadena, um, I worked days for like the first year I worked nights, and then the last 2 years I worked days. So when I was on days, get off my 12-hour shift, and I used to go to the gym after, but the gym, even I wouldn't take like pre-workout or anything, but the gym would still hype me up and I have a hard time going to sleep. And so
Yeah,
I just took
the
it upon
blood's
myself.
flowing.
Yeah, I just took it upon myself. I was like, okay, I still need sleep, and gym is hyping me up, so
Yeah.
I'll just do it in the morning. So yeah, you have to get up at like 3:30 to get to work normally. So I just swapped it. So when I got off shift at 6 o'clock, but you don't get home till like 7:30.
Yeah,
I
and when
would
you're an airman, you get
yeah
home a lot earlier
like
than
7:30,
NCO.
and so I would just go right to bed.
Yeah.
Because I knew I was getting up at 2 o'clock to go to the gym.
Smith, did you just take Somni tabs, turning in your weapon? I did, Sergeant. What the fuck?
Man.
Yeah, here you go.
But no, I just reversed it.
Mm-hmm.
And I would wake up at 2, and I'd work out in the gym from like 2:15 to
It's
like
got your Missy Elliott
3:15.
on, huh?
Yeah, and then I would
Put that thing down, flip it, and reverse it.
I would shave and
Is it worth
shower
it?
at the gym, and then I would show up for work when I was supposed to, like 4:35.
You'll find a solution.
Yeah, and then I was
I had plenty of friends who did that. Yeah, no, I had plenty of friends who fucking went to the gym at 2 a.m., got a fucking workout in for an hour and a half, went home, fucking showered, threw their fucking uniform on, and went to work. Like, it's just one of the things, dude. You gotta choose your fucking hard. Do you want to fucking deal with 5 hours of sleep, or do you want to deal with 7 hours of sleep? Do you want to fucking not work out? Like, it's just all these things, dude. Life fucking choices. Yeah.
Like when
Anyway,
we were in Kenya, it was I kind of did the opposite. It was I wanted to wake up and go right to work. That's because we worked 12 to 12, which is
I was
kind
gonna
of
say
weird.
we didn't work a 6 to 6 in Kenya. It was
Yeah.
weird. It was a midnight to noon or noon to midnight.
Yeah. So like me, I wanted to wake up and go right to work. So we would get off, and I would go straight to the gym, and then I would stay up a couple more hours until like 3, 4 in the morning, and then sometimes 5, and I'd go to sleep, and I would literally wake up at like 11, because we had to be at Garmin, I think, at like 11:45. I'd wake up at like 11:30.
We were all 15 feet from fucking guard mount. You know what I mean? Like,
I would get up at like
you're sleeping with your
11:30.
rifle. Like just walk out the fucking the door, and then there 5 steps across the gravel.
It was easy there. I didn't have to like worry about getting food beforehand, because I was
No
going to get
traffic.
food after
Dude,
guard mount.
exactly. Yeah. Dude, in some ways, I miss that sort of thing. Like,
So
I really
simple.
do.
So simple. You don't have to worry about
It was
anything.
simple. No, dude, like, I don't know. It sounds so stupid to say you miss shit like that, but
I do
like,
miss it.
I do.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. It is, dude. Like,
It gets mundane,
it's your job.
though. Like,
It does get mundane, but like, it's a good mundane.
But yeah.
It could be a good mundane.
Yeah. It's good that it's only 6 to 7 months, because I couldn't imagine doing that for like a year. I'd be like,
yeah. Oh man, it was like, or think of like if you were in World War II, you were deployed and you were just there till the war was over, or you were dead, right? And then like all those fucking guys at the beginning, and at the beginning of the GWAT, before they came up with that fucking the 6 month or the year schedule or whatever, some of those dudes were there for fucking 2 years. Like, that's just fucking crazy, man.
My first deployment was to an army camp in Oman. And the army camp was an army resort base ran by the NWR.
Yeah.
And its whole purpose was for a 2-week R&R vacation for soldiers who were deployed for a year.
Yeah.
So they would get deployed for a year, and it was like every Tuesday a C-130 or a C-5 would land at that little like resort, and the soldiers would get off they just were at like their 5 or 6 month mark for their deployment, and they would get off, and they would get 2 weeks to
find the first female airman they could find. Yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah. Or sailor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they got the 2 weeks to just chill at the resort, and then they would get flown back to the deployment to finish out the other 6-ish months. And my
Mm-hmm.
whole job is actually pretty cake because our job wasn't resort security. That was like actual soldiers. They
Was this the one
protected.
where you broke your arm?
No. That's Curacao. Different
Oh, that's
deployment.
right.
We weren't the resort security because we're security forces. We only protected the airfield, but
Mm-hmm.
only when there was a plane, and there was only a plane when it was dropping off picking up soldiers. So I
Dude,
worked
that's dope.
2 days a week.
Terrible, dude. I don't know how you did
Horrible
it.
deployment.
I don't know
But a
how you did it,
resort.
man. Thank you for your service.
Hey, someone's got to do it. Thank you for your
Right.
taxes.
Dude, for real. My
So
tan's
stupid.
not coming in right. I only got one slice of coconut cream cake at the DFAC today. Writing home about it.
Mhm.
Dear Dad, this deployment sucks.
My AC sputtered for 20 minutes,
Right.
and my internal temperature went from 68 degrees to 72. I
The menu
almost
said
died.
Salisbury steak on Wednesday, but it was meatloaf. Fuck my life.
They ran out of Taco Tuesday ingredients.
Yeah.
Taco Tuesday will now be Taco Thursday this week. I lost count of how many weeks I've been here.
On a good note, all the camp cats seem to have gone missing. You remember that though, dude? Do you remember that?
I do remember.
Jesus.
All of a sudden, all the cats were gone.
Gone. Yeah. Wait. What? I had the shits yesterday. I don't
Do you
know.
remember? Do you remember? There was like a 2 week stint where all of a sudden all the tiny monkeys were gone. The baboons were still around.
Mm-hmm. The vervets, they were
Yeah,
gone.
there was a stint like 2 weeks they were just all gone, and
You
then
see?
all of a sudden some more came, and then they're like a month later they're back to like normal population.
They had to ship them in.
Come on.
Dude, were you standing fucking in the airfield with me that time when the fucking Kenyans didn't call it in, and then they just went berserk on like a troop of fucking baboons, and all we heard was AK fire like 100 yards away. We're like, what the
Yes.
fuck? You know? Yeah.
When they
I was
did
like,
get
what the
cleared
fuck?
to kill baboons, and they
Yeah,
just like
just decided not to tell fucking J-Doc, like, oh, we're just gonna go over here and kill these fucking baboons, and they just did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Dude,
was funny.
I remember that Kenya's I was with Jirogi, whose actual name is George. He thought he was
Dude, you need to tell that story, dude.
Okay. So, when in Kenya, we worked with the Kenyan Nationals, the Kenyan Navy guys.
Yeah.
There was a guy
KDF.
who, the whole time we were there for about 4 months, like the first 4 months, we just all called him Jirogi because that's what he told us his name was. So we just, all right, cool, you're Jirogi.
I remember, dude. I didn't even know this till you told me this like years later, dude. It cracks me up, man.
It's like, all right, cool, man, you're Jirogi. Got it. Good to
Dude,
go.
it sounds Kenyan.
Yeah, sounds Kenyan.
Swahili. Yeah.
Why would
It's
I?
a Swahili name. I'm not going to question it.
You know your name.
Yep.
I don't.
Yep.
And well, I was at that little post that you shared with me one day.
Yeah.
And he was just curious. He was like, what did driver's license look like in the States? And I was like, driver's license? You want to see my driver's license? Like, that's weird. He's like, I'm just curious. Sample? And I was like, well, it doesn't have my actual address on it because it's from like a long time ago, so sure. So I was like, yeah, this looks like it's Washington. Every state's going to be different, that type of stuff. I was like, you guys have driver's license? He's like, nope, you just drive. I was like, oh, okay. Well, what do you have?
Fair enough, you barely have roads, so.
Yeah, I was like, what do you use to identify yourself? He's like, well, when you join the Kenyan Navy, you get an ID. But usually we don't have IDs unless, like, we need one for work. And I was like, oh, nice. Well, what's that look like? And he hands it to me, and I look at it, and I'm like, hey, Jirogi. And yeah, what's up? I'm like, your name's George. And he was
what do you mean?
He's like, huh? No, I'm Jirogi. I was like, no, dude, this says George. And he was like, no, I'm Jirogi. And I was like, no, like, watch. And I pulled out my phone.
Total existential crisis.
Yeah, pulled out my phone. I went to Google, typed in George, and then hit the microphone. And it went George. And he was like, I'm George? I'm like, yeah, dude, you're George. And he's like, huh. and you could see on his face, like his whole life was like changed.
My life is a lie.
Because there's no George. And he's like, I haven't always been George. And I was like, yeah, I know, you just found out. He's like, no,
You're right. 5 minutes ago. Yeah.
He's like, no. He's like, I had a different name before I was 8. And I was like, what? And then he told me that because of like Christianity took over like Kenya, when they're baptized, they're given a Western Christian name.
Yeah.
So he used to have a different name. His parents gave him something like, I don't know what it was. And when he was baptized, they just picked a name out of some like list of Christian names, but there was no actual like priests
Pronunciation.
like there anymore because they were like, now it's like a Kenyan priest and he doesn't know how to say George by looking at it, so he gave his best shot. I was like, Jerogi. So he just thought his name was Jerogi this whole time. It was funny is he called his wife and his mom like immediately after. He was like, I'm George. And like you could tell him, like you could see the excitement in his face, and telling his wife and his mom is actually George. But there comes a problem. Because old George, and I don't know if you remember this. Did you remember when we got yelled at by Captain Farmer because there was too many locals coming to the gate?
That fucking idiot. Yeah.
Do you know why there's too many locals coming to the gate?
They wanted you to teach them how to actually say their fucking name.
Yes, they wanted to know their actual name, proper way to say it.
Right.
So George went back to his little village.
Word of mouth, dude.
Told them all that his name was George and that you got to go to the Americans to know your actual name.
He's got the magic box that'll tell you how to say your fucking name.
Because it might be wrong.
Yeah.
And, I remember we were out there at Echo 2, because Echo 2 is, right down the line. And there was like a line of Kenyans, and none of them were supposed to be there.
That's awesome.
They were all holding their IDs up. I'm like, oh my god. And they just wanted to know their names. So I did. I sat there with Mueller. Me and Mueller sat there for hours reading people their name.
That's excellent, dude. That's like a scene from a movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is.
People come up and like, am I Cameroon? Like, no, you're Cameron. See you later.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Though.
Am I Zach? No, you're Zach. Good name, by the way. See you later.
Yeah.
Like,
right. Zachery.
Yeah. Some of them
just
come
so
up
funny.
and they had their name right. I'm like, no, that's right. You're good, dude.
Yep.
That's what
They're like
Kevin.
Disappointed. Like, fuck. Yeah. It's saying my name right the whole time. Damn it.
You've always been Kevin. See you later.
Just go home and make up a lie. It's actually Kevin.
I am Kevin.
Hey, baby. Hey, baby. Right?
But
That's
no,
awesome.
It was funny.
Good stories.
It's so funny. And then Jerogi, every time I saw him, he'd be like, hello, Smith. I am George. Like, I know, dude. I know who you are.
That's awesome, dude.
He's just so happy to be George.
I never knew that, man. I even have like pointed, as I have pictured like a couple like group shots with like George in it. And I've even said like, oh yeah, this guy right here, he was in the fucking Kenyan Navy. His name's Jerogi. Like, no, it's not. He'd correct the fuck out my ass if I seen him.
Oh yeah.
I am George.
Oh yeah. I am George. Well, like the rest of that initial shift when he figured out his name, that's what he just kept saying to himself. Because he didn't want to forget it,
Right.
So he just kept going, George. I am George. And then I was like, you could be like George of the Jungle, you know that, right? And he's like, what? And so then I was showing him like George of the Jungle and stuff. And he's
Brendan Fraser.
Yeah.
Just played a song for him.
I was.
Oh, I like this song. Oh, George. Jerogi of the Jungle. Yeah, Jerogi of the Jungle doesn't have the same ring. You know what I mean?
It doesn't.
It actually sounds like a totally different kind of movie. Like this, George of the Jungle is a comedy for kids. Jerogi of the Jungle is a drama.
It's a drama in Kenya.
Yeah, exactly. Imperial British Kenya. Yeah, we won't go there.
I think is mine the next question? I think.
I think so.
You have one left, right?
I do have one left.
So I'm next, and then you're up, and then we're done. All right.
Lucky doesn't slow you.
So, this is Burnt Popcorn. I'm out. See you later. The people got to know, Brandon, what are the future plans and aspirations you have for your podcast after my departure?
Yeah. Well, aside from crying, um, you know, I think everybody knows now. We put out an episode already with Chris from Common
Mhm.
Freaking Sense with Mark Divine. Who Mark Divine, super amazing guy, actually. Pretty wild. But man, I'm gonna keep this up for a while and see how it goes. My expectations when I started doing the podcast were quickly corrected. Let's put it that way. My expectation management was
You were
not what it
humbled.
should be. I was humbled for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know what I thought, but it didn't happen. But that's okay. Um, but I'm gonna keep doing it. I'm gonna figure this out. I want to keep talking to everybody and anybody. I think one of the things I am gonna start doing is kind of change up the interview style a little bit. For the most part, I like listening to people and I like letting them tell me their story and I like letting them tell me about the things that interest them because I like hearing what other people think.
Mhm.
That whole thing. I got one mouth and two ears. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I want to start doing more interview styles where I don't know what the word is. It's not like confrontational, not at all. Like I don't mean it like that, but like asking more direct questions and getting to the bottom of things rather than just listening to somebody talk and making them defend their point and making them justify why they think the way they think
Yeah.
or whatever. And do like actual interviews, right? And have like discussions
You
about
want to be
the
less
things they
vague.
think.
Kind of put them in, like, check
Right.
them
I don't
in a
want
way.
Yeah, check them. That sounds aggressive or
Yeah.
but I don't mean it like that. Yeah, if like before there have been people that we've had on here who have said some things and in the back of my mind I'm like, does that really make sense? So like that's okay. This is what they're saying and this is their thoughts and that's okay. Because I've
Mhm.
always said that I want people to determine what they think about this person who's on here. But would like to get into more having like a discussion, even if that discussion ends up getting, I guess, heated, but not
Yeah.
like in a bad way.
Yeah.
Like just defending your point, and I want to have
You can
more interview
have
styles
like
like that.
a healthy debate without it being an argument.
Exactly, and I want to start doing interviews like that. You say something or you say something happened, what's the proof, back
Mhm.
up why you think that way, and just be more direct in my interview style instead of passive. I think is a better way to say
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah,
um
because there's been times where like I wanted to follow up with what an applicant, not applicant, with what a person you're
okay,
interviewing said.
recruiter.
Yeah, so I was doing a lot of recruiting today, so it's
Mm.
like came all back to my mind. But like I wanted to ask like a follow up sometimes to what someone would say, um, but then I would also be afraid of like upsetting them or it leading to them saying something that like the masses or like the algorithm wouldn't agree with, and then
Get canceled.
yeah, and then maybe so we had one big one person on, and I think we took down that episode because it was just a little too much, and
Yep, I know what
I
you're talking about.
was yeah, and in that I wanted to be a little bit more specific in some of my questions.
Challenging.
Yeah, but then I was afraid of if people didn't listen to the whole episode, they would think that we as a podcast were agreeing with that person,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't want that to happen. So I could definitely see how there's like you have to be kind of careful when you do it. But as long as I guess during the episode, um, you specify clearly that you just want the information, it doesn't mean that you actually are like I guess
Oh yeah,
approving of
like
it.
like
But
full disclosure, people
yeah,
have said things on our podcast that I don't agree with. That's for
yeah,
sure. Um, but yeah, I think just what it is, man, is like having a healthy respect for what you're saying but understanding that when you come on, this is like kind of how I want to change it up, is that I may call you on something or ask you something or ask you to defend what you want to say or ask you to elaborate more or provide evidence for what you're saying, and quantify your statement. And if that leads to some sort of, I guess, debate, or like, it'll always be respectful and healthy. If someone loses their, I'm not like, it almost sounds like I'm saying I'm just gonna start coming at people, which isn't what I'm saying. Like I'm just trying to say that
no,
like I want to be more of a direct interview style than a
Mhm.
passive listen to what somebody says. And I think that there's just more in there to do that kind of thing with somebody. And you know, I guess you put it right. Push that fear out of the way of just asking somebody a direct question
Mm-hmm.
and then seeing, them have to elaborate on their own reality and
Mm-hmm.
just try to do that. So that's, I guess, how it'll change. I don't know if I explained that the best way I could, but um, I think that for sure there's not going to be any sort of like change to like the look of the podcast by any means.
Yeah.
I have thought like maybe in the depending on how much longer I do this, right? I'll just say that. Um, Maybe a change to a more simple logo and not the super classical looking one with,
Mm-hmm.
Prometheus handing a man the torch. Like maybe finding a more simple way to do that. Um, but that may be in the future, but it's not a priority by any means. And
Yeah.
do want to start doing more, which is Chris has already kind of started helping with by tagging us as a collaborator on some of his like political memes and videos and stuff like that, which is good. Which is more that I wanted to do, and it's nice to, that he is just bringing that to the table because it's going on
Yeah.
his page anyway, and
Mm-hmm.
so like if you think back to like your Continental Liberators page, I think that's
Yeah.
it's kind of almost like what we were thinking would happen before we realized just how much fucking time this took.
Oh
You know what I
yeah.
mean? And he already has the page and is doing it. And I can keep doing what I'm doing with, our page
Mm-hmm.
in doing the reels and all that stuff. I actually was talking to somebody last night who's going to come on later this month. It's somebody who he's also security forces, but he's got his own podcast as well. But he asked me, he's like, because he's been listening since the beginning. Like we talked about, the first person I had co-host and kind of gave him a little
Mm-hmm.
more info about all that. And he's like, yeah, man, he's like, your rebrand when Zach came on was insane. He's like, that like changed your entire. And I told him, I was like, dude, that was all Zach. Like the Monday, Wednesday, Friday posts, like Zach designed all of those. And I was like, Zach, even that was like one of the first couple within the first couple conversations we had was about branding and having a brand. And I was like, that's 100%, Zach. And so in a way that like, even though you're gone, your legacy is still there
Yeah.
because the way I Came with Fire podcast looks is 100% because of you. And if people don't know that, like that's the truth. Like Zach is the reason why it looks the way it does now. So
I just felt.
yeah.
I remember talking to you after the like I guess like the disbandment or the breakup of what you
The
kind of had
breakup.
going before. I just
Yeah.
felt so bad. I was like, Brandon is such a like awesome guy. Has so many unique things to say and stuff. And I was like, I can't. And I remember you telling me how you always wanted to start a podcast, but it wasn't the right time or it wasn't the right person or whatever. And I was like, it's like I can give Brandon the time. I can give Brandon the person. So I wanted to make sure that very early on that like anything that I was doing or giving to you was for the betterment of your podcast.
You added value,
and
a lot of
all that
value.
type of stuff. So I was happy to be part of it.
Me too, man. I honestly, I don't know that if I mean this like when that happened, that situation, and I haven't really like talked about it on the podcast because that person truly is not worth having a real conversation about. I didn't even know if I was going to keep doing it because like out of anger, and even my wife was like, you need to take a couple of days. This isn't something that you just need to fucking pull the trigger on and say that's it. But yeah, the podcast absolutely wouldn't even be what it is without you, 100%. And not even just the posts, but the people we've had on, the conversations we've had, the fact that this is still a podcast 56 episodes later, right, is it's also a testament to just you and me in general, man, because like I read something at some point, I don't know how accurate this statistic is because statistics suck, but it said on average, every new podcast that comes out never makes it past 9 episodes. And 9 episodes is the average number of podcast episodes. And we're fucking way past that. You know what I mean? So like literally 6 times past that.
Yeah.
And it's cool, man. Like I've learned, again, right, expectation management. I've learned just how much work this actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Where I suffer the most in doing this is time with my family. I don't make any money on this podcast. I have spent way more money on this podcast that like I will never probably make back unless some miracle happens, which is
Mm-hmm.
fine because I think, again, going back to expectation management, this has been a scratch or an itch in my brain that I've been able to scratch, and that has been the most value. And I've
Yeah.
said this over and over and over again when we talk. It's just like the people, there are conversations we've had on this podcast of people that I know have changed me for the better. The first one was absolutely Dan Schilling. I think
Mm-hmm.
I said this several times before on the podcast, but I'll say it again that without having Dan Schilling on here, I don't know that I would have gone and sought the mental health help that I needed and wasn't going to. Because
Yeah.
if a fucking legend like Dan Schilling could sit here with just two fucking noobs at this, and
Yeah.
say, man, I was fucking leading commandos but wanted to kill myself, like, I could take my fucking brown ass and go over to the fucking mental
Mm-hmm.
health clinic and get some attention and
Yep.
get some help, you know? And there's been other conversations we've had, like the one we just had with Mark Devine. Like, that guy is one of those people, when he starts talking, you shut the fuck up and listen.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that guy has so many incredible things to say. But and then even some of our popcorn podcasts, those have always been my most fun podcasts, like the ones I enjoy the most. And you know what sucks is we never did as many as we probably should have. And
Yeah.
you know, it's just, I don't know, man. That's another way that like the podcast was different than what I thought it would be. When I first
You,
started, I thought it
you
would
think you
be
can have a
me.
plan and it's gonna
Mm-hmm.
like go well, but then like
Yep.
life happens,
Yep.
people cancel, and you're like,
Yep.
crap, I gotta figure
Yep.
something out real quick.
Well, that and I always thought it would be more commentary between me and the whoever the co-host was,
Mhm.
rather than guests. You know what I mean? But it's
Yeah.
turned into more of a guest thing, which I'm really thankful for too.
Mhm.
But it's, you know, as Mike Tyson said, everybody got to pay until they get hit in the mouth. So that's what happened, dude. Got hit in the mouth in a final, and here I am. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think those are the biggest changes that are gonna happen. Um, yeah, and then, you know, of course, making it to, you know, the Rogan level, you know, that's happening, obviously. So
Obviously. It's like next
obviously,
week.
knock on wood.
All right, Perry, you
All
got
right,
one more question. We have never
Uno
actually
Mas.
finished all our questions for a popcorn podcast. So this
Yeah,
is the first time, which is ironic, this is the last last
first and
popcorn
last time,
podcast with you and I.
right?
But
It's
it'll be the
okay.
first time we actually get all our
We
questions
committed to
out.
finishing this one
We
too
did.
beforehand. We did. All right, man. Your question was like lighthearted and good. Now mine's like just back to business as usual. Do you think another
Okay.
9/11-esque attack on the United States is coming?
No, I do not.
Okay,
And the reason why is actually kind of a short response. The reason why
I'm okay with
is
that.
because after 9/11, the US government got really good at
TSA.
predicting future 9/11s. And I think I don't know the exact number, but since 9/11, there's been, I want to say it's like 200 plus 9/11 level like attempts that have
Have
been
been thwarted.
stopped. And um, so could it happen? It could. I feel like it'd be much harder now to get something to that degree by a terrorist group or a like paramilitary organization or something like that. Now
You
you
really
could
think that
have,
with the way the border is wide open?
I do. I don't think you're gonna get that much destruction. You could get like something still pretty crazy, but it's not gonna be that much destruction, not that much death, not that much connectedness where like it affected everyone. Excuse me, everyone in like the U.S. You'll get something that might affect a region or like a county or a town. I don't think you'll get something that will affect the entire United States. At least not from something like a paramilitary group or a terrorist organization, something like that. Will another 9/11 event happen? Probably, but it's going to be from a peer. It's not going to be from. Um, it's going to be.
Terrorist.
A lot of people compare 9/11 to Pearl Harbor. Like 9/11 was that time's Pearl Harbor, but Pearl Harbor was an actual nation.
After war.
Yeah, coming and getting us. The next 9/11 is going to be another nation. It's not.
So it'll
it's not-
be more of an equivalent to a Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
In that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can agree with what you're saying. I feel like there are people here already. I mean, we even talked about the video of that guy that was like, "You don't know me, but you will know who I am." You know, the arrogant fucking piece of shit. I think was he like Hezbollah or something like that? They ended up, because he's an idiot and said that shit on fucking camera. They caught him.
Yeah.
And I'll say this too, like, yeah, right. Just fucking turn his ass into pink mist. But no, I mean, we'll never either hear about all the fucking shitheads they actually do catch who are terrorists. Probably,
I wish we would, and so
I agree,
because that comes down to the thing, right? Where like when you have a town that is like got no crime, then that town tends to think the police force isn't needed. So then they will like remove the okay, you don't need as much funding, and then crime spikes. But if the police force had a way to like explain effectively to like the town, hey, you don't have crime because
you need us,
of what we're doing, then it would be better. And I see a lot of people who are like, why do we have the FBI? Why do we have TSA?
Border Patrol.
Yeah, why do we have TSA? Why do we have all these
CSA?
all these organizations? We haven't had a 9/11 in 20 plus years. What's the point of them? Like, if there's a way to like articulate better to the people that, hey, 9/11 number 6 was stopped this week. But I understand you have to be careful with the information that you do know, because then you don't want your adversaries to then kind of get an idea of how you can prevent it or you can stop them. And I get that, but there's got to be a way that you can say, like,
you can maybe exampleize somebody.
Yeah, there's got to be a way. I'm trying to find exactly how many 9/11s we've stopped.
I think that there will be at least some sort of lone wolf style attack. I think it's pretty evident that Americans are very capable of tearing down our country without the help of other idiots as well. So there's always that to look forward to.
I was really low on my number. It's estimated that it is over 3,000 9/11 type threats have been stopped by.
What website is that from?
This is from the Department of Justice.
Oh, okay. So credible.
Yeah,
as credible as it can be, I guess.
I guess they keep a track of these. I guess there was like the most recent one was stopped in the Seattle, Portland area. About 8 months ago. What the heck? What?
For real?
Yeah.
Is there details?
It doesn't go into real details. It just says that it was 5 terrorist cells working together to cause a mass terrorist act equal to 9/11 in the Seattle, Portland area. It was thwarted about 8 months ago. They were still in the early plannings, and it wasn't expected to happen for about another year.
Wow. How much of that do you think is total bullshit?
You think it's just the U.S. government fluffing there and like, look what we can do. You can't get away with anything because we'll stop you.
The possibility definitely exists. So I'm asking, like, do you think that like every single one of those is actually real, or do you think any of those are fluff, like you said?
It's a prediction. How do you know it's going to be a 9/11 level event?
I mean, I guess if you knew exactly what the end goal was, whether or not the logistics were pieced together or not, like if you said, "Oh yeah,
possible," like because like you could have a guy saying, "I'm going to blow up New York," but if he's just a random crazy dude, like, is that a 9/11 event that you stopped because you
right? Yeah, I think there will be another terrorist attack on the United States at some point. But
I remember in the 10th anniversary, like 2011, there was like a huge rumor going around that terrorists were gonna fly like single seat Cessnas with like briefcase nukes over like cities and launch them all. I remember like,
something like that.
I remember people were like thinking it was like a serious thing. I was like, one, where are they getting briefcase nukes? Two.
Yeah.
How are they?
The briefcase nuke store, duh.
Amazon.
Right?
Jeff Bezos
Yeah,
is going to
thanks, Jeff.
ship it 2-day shipping
To your front door, yeah.
from his garage.
Well, and then when like one group of the terrorists didn't get the memo that it was supposed to be next day shipping, and they did regular shipping, and their fucking briefcase nukes came a week later, and they're like, "Oh my god, what are you doing? You
I'm so
fucking
sorry.
now we have to do it next week. Oh shit, it's a New Year's bomb attack, not the Christmas one anymore. Oh my god, it's not as cool."
It's like that one meme where it's like a Middle Eastern woman and she's all confused, and it's like when your dad comes back from the suicide bomb.
Oh yeah, I've seen that, dude.
She's all, but I thought that doesn't make any sense. Or the one where it's like when you call in sick to your suicide bombing. Sorry, I can't do it today. I'm sick.
Yeah.
You can do it today.
It's okay. Yeah, you got it.
You're fine.
A cure to the flu, right here.
Yep. You ain't gonna
Promise,
be sick
you won't be
soon.
sick. You won't be sick afterwards.
Yeah, promise. Trust me, I'm a doctor.
Exactly. 72 versions. 72 versions.
They didn't say they were human.
You're right.
Could be 72 goats up there, but I guess that might be what they're into.
That might be appealing, though.
Yeah.
Now you're just, yeah. Well,
Brandon,
Zach, it's been fun. It has been fun.
It has.
I will miss doing this with you, man. A lot.
I know as well.
And, you know, Zach, I don't think this will be the last time we see you on here, especially since you're moving 30 minutes down the road from me. So
True.
I'll probably put a picture up or two of you. Probably go over and take a picture of you from the sidewalk or something just to be weird. Put it up and tag you. tag your wife, since you're not on fucking Instagram. And just have like a picture of her in the kitchen from the sidewalk. Like, what the fuck?
That's that creepy.
She'd be like, Zach. Yeah, you know, just for fun.
We'll have that like get some shooting reels together and some other stuff. So I'll probably still be here and there. I just won't be extremely
We'll have
active.
to have you on as a guest.
Yep.
We can have a three-way popcorn podcast.
Ooh. There's no way we
get
to like 5 questions.
All 15 questions.
There's no way. That's like a 4-hour, 5-hour.
It is, yeah. It would be fun though.
It'd be a long.
We figure it out.
We do 3 questions each.
Right. Even then,
or 2.
9.
Because technically, everyone has to answer like the question. Right. So 2 questions each.
Technically, yeah.
Jesus.
You're right. Well, everybody, thank you for the past year of listening to Zach and I talk. And if you've found any value or at least entertainment or frustration or anger in anything we've said, then good. Especially if it ticked you off.
Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, let us know in the comments. But we're just glad that you're here. And truly thank you very much for doing this with me for the past year. And I know that, you know, it became more of a chore than anything sometimes. But I appreciate you sticking around even when you didn't really feel like it. And it means a lot to, even if this doesn't go anywhere as a podcast, which it probably won't, which is fine. I will always have these episodes and it will exist somewhere. And it is now a body of work that you and I can both look back on and say we did. And it is immortalized, I guess, in that way. So, which is pretty cool, man. Not everybody pulls the trigger on doing something, even if it doesn't amount to a fucking thing.
I can't think of anything else.
It's about the journey.
I can't think of anything else other than the United States Air Force that I have committed a full year plus to.
Right? Yeah. Well, he's like, not even my marriage. No. he's like, I quit on that all the time. Right? Yeah. Not sue me now.
Don't listen to this episode. Like,
yeah, exactly. Just edit that out.
Cool.
All right, man. Well, as always, please like, subscribe. For the 90+% of you who listen but don't hit the subscribe button, please do us a favor and just press it. It's okay. If you write me and with a screenshot of you being subscribed, I will send you a free sticker. Absolutely no one has hit me up on that offer. I mean, I like free slaps. It costs you nothing. I will just mail it to you. So,
as a gift to me for my 1 year Press the
Yeah.
button.
Just do it. Could you imagine if just like overnight we got like
Just
fucking
skyrocketed.
25,000? Yeah, it's not gonna happen. But that's okay.
You never know.
I've come
Never
to
know.
terms with that. You're right. Lightning could strike, right?
It could.
Or fire could strike. Okay. Thanks, friends and family. Zach.
Adios.